Everything sounds good. Blessings. What's up? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hi. Hi, everybody. I'm Clara Kent. I am a local artist from Pittsburgh. I also own a company called Bounce House where we elevate the underground. And I'm also now a radio host at WIEP. I wear many creative hats. I also work with Black November. I do a lot. And I'm here to play some exclusive tunes with you while I'm in the process of writing for a project that's coming out next year. The donations are going to go to Native people and Black women in community that do arts and works within community. It's called The Four Winds. So this is going to be one of the first tracks on there. Look at all the people coming in. Let me get started. Before we start this, I want to say a mantra that I say at every show I do. So when I say all love, you say no hate. We're going to bring love. Already love in this room, but we're going to bring it up even more. All love.
No hate.
No hate.
Yeah, all love.
No
hate.
All love.
No hate.
Yeah, let's get it. It's time to party. We're going to have a good time.
I'm so tired. It just keeps going and going and going. I don't know if I can keep going like this. I don't know. I don't need nobody. I don't need no one. What do I? Maybe. Been traveling a road I've made for myself. I've had little help. I don't need no help, no. I maintain on my own and I keep telling myself I don't need no help, I don't need no help. I just want wealth, I wanna build something, build something. I just need health, I wanna heal something, heal something. I just need love, I wanna feel something. More than this, euphoria. Why hate all of this? But just take all of it. You don't need accomplishment. I just need love and sin. Oh, I must go deep within to cleanse my soul again and to find my greatest friend. Oh, my heart is on the mend, and I gave so much of me to those who couldn't see the light I gave to them. It reflects what they could give. Oh, I'm tired, so tired of this. Those nights I never rest. Let this pain inside the chest. Oh my God, please make it end. Wonder how I feel. Wonder how it feels. I know that love can heal. I wonder how it feels. Know that love can heal. Yeah. Her hands are calloused and bruised, mind racing, always crafting, building, making broken things whole again. Her head is down, working on the road ahead. The sun peaks above the clouds as she sinks into the dirt. Slowly, with each step forward, brown skin facing the sunlight. Her heart aches, knowing her time has come to go, to let go of the work she was expected to do, and to begin on a path less traveled, anew. It's a lonely path, not many take it. Made of red clay and mud, but the light, it always shines there. Slowly and steadily, she makes her way to the springtime, hills of flowers and warm winds, to the rebirth, onward, into the east. Into the east.
Hello. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, that was an exclusive. That's going to be on the mixtape. It's called Four Winds. It's actually available for pre-order now. The proceeds are going toward organizations within Pittsburgh, like Afro-American Music Institute in Homewood, where I'm from. Thank you. And yeah, and I'm going to hush us out with a song from a mentee that I'm also a manager. I don't know. And this artist's her name is Moni Bahia. She's actually a part of the Bounce House Collective. Thank you so much, y'all. Her album is called Inferno. It just dropped. And this is one of the songs from that project. It's called Frizz. She produced this herself.
Maybe they be on some different shit, but I don't see the point in reminiscing it. If there was a problem, I ain't get the hint, cause she the one to tell me. If there be a problem, she can handle it. If she the one to tell me, no, she the one to tell me. She the one to. Maybe they be on some different shit, but I don't see the point in reminiscing it. If there be a problem, she can handle it. If she don't wanna tell me about the damages, and I ain't even trying to plead my innocence, I'd be guilty as the fifth at the innocent. Always get myself into an incident. Honestly, I used to think it was coincidence. Until I learned the truth about these idiots. They gon' lie in the truth and be manipulative. She run and tell the book to find her sympathy. I just wouldn't do it, I got dignity. And maybe I'm just adding to the injury. None of us speak up, but they're not differently. Not everyone can handle my intensity. Not everyone can handle being friend with me. Wake up feeling alright, but they keep on saying something wrong. I don't know what they saying, let them talk, let them talk. I ain't gonna take it to the heart, wake up feeling alright, but they keep on saying something wrong. I don't know what they saying, let them talk, let them talk. I ain't gonna take it to the heart. She wanna talk to me like I'm her child, but she know that ain't never how it's gon' go down. And it shows, telling people how she gon' run down. And I hope she got that energy when I come round. She posing, got them feeling like I tore her down. I know the truth will kill her, let her run her mouth. I know that she be talking, but I hear no sound. She said that she gonna get me, but don't say it loud. She knows what I be, but she don't come round. So all that there is to know is that a bitch down. And all that it goes to show is that the lips don't count. And all that I really know is what the girl ain't bout. I know that she tryna stretch it, let it thin her out. Ain't nothing like how you see a girl, he can't get down. She talking like she would know me, she could shut her mouth. I promise that you don't know me, I ain't got no doubts, yeah. Wake up feeling alright, but they keep on saying something wrong. I don't know what they saying, let them talk, let them talk. I ain't gonna take it to the heart, wake up feeling alright, but they keep on saying something wrong. I don't know what they saying, let them talk, let them talk. I ain't gonna take it to the heart. I ain't gonna take it to the heart. I ain't gonna rip it till it's gone. I ain't gonna take it to the heart. I ain't gonna rip it till it's gone. I ain't gonna take it to the heart. I ain't gonna rip it till it's gone. I ain't gonna rip it till it's gone.
Thank you. That was from the young artist Moni Bahia. She's 20 years old. She produced it. She played all the instruments. She wrote it herself. She recorded it herself. And that's what Bounce House is about, elevating the underground. I'm so excited for her. She's actually performing at Mr. Smalls this Friday. So if you want to support her, just let me know. amazing talent. Benji has been working with her too. He did bass for her on a couple tracks. I'm so excited for the new generation of Pittsburgh. It's not even funny. She's been getting a lot of attention, so I'm very excited. Oh, thanks, I'm so excited. Yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff happening, and I'm very excited to be here with everybody. Everybody is so amazing. I looked up everybody's backgrounds, and just knowing that we're going to be in this loving, artful space today makes me so happy. I needed this really bad. So I'm glad to share space with so many peers and so many great people. And yeah, we only got 2 minutes left, so we're going to do all love, no hate again, if that's okay. Y'all ready? Get ready. I hope y'all see me on both cameras. Get ready. So we're going to say, I say all love, you say no hate. Ready? All love.
No hate.
All love.
No hate.
No hate.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's a lot of love energy. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. All right, everyone. That was amazing, Clara. Thank you for that beautiful intro. Hi, everyone. I'm Sherilyn Celia. I'm the Senior Program Manager for Grantmakers in the Arts. And this is our very first GIA Black Arts Funding Summit. We are so excited. We are thrilled. This is like, personally, I think a really amazing way to wrap up the year. So I'm like, yes, love this. Love seeing all these people here. So as you know, a lot of us know, right, that in philanthropy, there's a lot of profiting from oppression. There's a lot of exploitation that happens. There's a lot of things that we want to do less of. And so we're really glad to have this event to learn better practices, unlearn exploitative practices, and to elevate Black voices. And we're going to have a great time together. So I'm going to kick it over to our amazing facilitator and planner, Jessica Gaynell-Moss, to bring us through the day.
Wow, what a great day already. I'm just so excited to be here. Sherilyn, thank you for that intro. Happy Tuesday, everyone. 1 o'clock, 1:16, right on time. I'm so grateful, starting with a space of gratitude. Thank you for showing up for today. That's half the battle. Thank you to Claire Kent for that phenomenal kickoff. Claire, can you put the track titles and your Cash App Venmo information directly in the chat so folks can tip you if they're so inclined? I also want to say thank you to Atia Jones, who shared her visual work for the identity of this program. Atia's work can be purchased through her website. We'll link her bio in the chat. Thank you to Toya, who is our visual note taker for this afternoon. Toya is going to be making work as we're speaking about art and art production. So we're so excited to have Toya here. Thank you to all of our artists, all of our speakers and leaders who are present today. Thank you, so much gratitude. As Sherilyn said, my name is Jessica. I'm an artist, a curator, I'm a custodian of Black art, I'm a world builder. I believe that if it doesn't exist, we can work together to shape it and to build it. I've been working with the GIA team for the past few months to develop this summit, and we're excited about making something that's unlike anything else, that creates a space for learning, resource building, rest, and dreaming. And we've got an all-star lineup today, so I really can't wait to get started. Let's see. Thank you to each of you for taking the time to complete the questionnaire as a part of your registration for the summit. Your responses help shape today's program, and I hope that we can address many of your inquiries. Overwhelmingly, you're interested in process. You want to know more about real-life examples and case studies of projects and models that are effective, efficient, and were completed successfully with measurable outcomes. And we're going to get into that. But I'd like to take a moment and briefly share a few of my own. And as the day progresses, we'll continue to highlight and uplift some others. So I'm the founding director of a program called the Roll Up CLT. It's an artist residency started in Charlotte, North Carolina, that's awarded over $200,000 to support Black contemporary artists across disciplines since we launched in 2016. The question of this project is, how can the artists be ethically embedded in community? And how can Black artists help Black people narrate our own histories? We provide a livable wage. It's $15,000 to $30,000 for a 6-month period. Excuse me, sorry, I have so many screens open. We do free housing, material stipend, a food per diem, local liaison to help you navigate the new space. We provide transportation and time to dedicate your research and your development as an artist. I'm the administrative director of a program called Sybil Shrine. It's an arts collective and a multi-tiered artist residency program that answers the question, how can we support our community beyond money? And as a model, how can we center a more holistic approach to the work? That's emotional, spiritual, physical, and psychological. Sybil Shrine provides radical care, rest, and support for Black artists who mother. Care like we hosted a staycation birthday Airbnb with a bubble bath surprise for a single mother, complete with childcare. When I say rest, I mean like our annual retreat this year, 2023, we're preparing to go to Morocco with about 10 of our mothers. And when I say support, I mean readiness, like stay ready so you don't have to get ready. We're always prepared for exhibition opportunities, studio visits, chances to speak with curators, etc. Our collective started with 30 Pittsburgh-based artists, but we've grown and now we support and hold about 80 artists who mother across the nation. I also believe in collaborating and partnering with existing institutions who have similar missions and goals to achieve results that are mutually beneficial. Like my work in philanthropy began as an artist in residence at a space called Elsewhere Museum in Greensboro, North Carolina. I wondered as an artist, how could I reimagine philanthropy? Could I, one person, simply just with myself, simplify access to resources, perpetuate lasting social good, and establish a more equitable funding model? The question I was aiming to answer was, how can I provide access, opportunities for growth, and financial support for future generations of Black women, arts workers, and administrators? And we see the Above Ground Railroad Scholarship, which was created in 2018 in partnership with Elsewhere, which provides an unrestricted stipend of $1,000, free annual museum admission, access to partner institutions, classes, workshops, and events, and opportunities for curatorial apprenticeship. The Above Ground Railroad Grant Award exists in partnership with the Pittsburgh Foundation and the Heinz Endowment. This grant program supports 3 Black Pittsburgh-based women identifying college students under the age of 25 in pursuit of a career in arts administration. These are unrestricted grant awards of $10,000, no final reports. My work with the Advancing Black Arts in Pittsburgh program is an example of some of the philanthropic work that I'm most proud of. This program was created in 2010. It's awarded 688 grants, totaling $9.45 million to support excellence in artwork rooted in the Black experience. During my tenure in the 2020 grant cycle, we had a 0% decline rate. That means our team was able to offer unrestricted $500 grants to every single applicant who completed an eligible application. And most recently, I piloted a program in partnership with the Office for Public Art in Pittsburgh called the Seed Money Fund. Seed Money is a rapid response funding program shaped by the input of a faction of Pittsburgh-based artists, administrators, curators, and collectives that invest in our local arts community with small, unrestricted grants. These are $3,000, portfolio and career development, access to public art professionals, professional artistic support, networking, and mentorship opportunities. So those are some of the things that keep me busy. I hope you're feeling inspired. We're going to be great today, and we're just getting started. There's so much more to come. And I just want to remind you that we have all that we need. So please allow me to talk a little bit about our framework for today. Each session is 30 minutes with the exception of a few, and we're going to have 5-minute breaks in between. We'll have a midpoint 30-minute break in our program, and we'll officially end at 5 p.m. At the end of our program, we'll share a link with the post-program survey, and we'll aim to have the strongest programming possible that addresses all of your inquiries and encourages joy and play while doing this work. So please share your thoughts when prompted. Okay, close your eyes. Imagine our space that we're in today as a duplex. One side of our shared home is a completely public space. All are welcome and encouraged to be in dialogue, to share, and to learn from each other. This space is accessible and open to all. Beyond the wall, on the other side of our shared home, is situated as a Black autonomous space that invites only the participation of those who identify as Black. This space is conceived for and by Black artists and Black people. It is dedicated to our resistance, our healing, and our survival. If you identify as Black, African American, African Caribbean, Afro-Latinx, or of the African diaspora, this space is accessible and open to you. And now, lastly, I'd like to go over our agreement for today. Let's be honest. Let's be honest about why we're here, about why we're doing this work, about who we're doing this work for. Let's do it respectfully, with integrity, and ethically. Let's remember, as Roxanne Gay reminds us in Bad Feminists, that we all have some level of privilege. What are some of the ways that we can recognize our goals and our roles as gatekeepers, regardless of our positional power? Here, in this space, we're creating a container for our dreams, our schemes, discourse, and scholarship. We're our architects. We make our own rules. This is not a space for assimilation, upholding systemic oppressions, or recreating traditional models of exploitation that are continuously proven ineffective, that hinder our process and limit our expansiveness. Instead, this space it should not be centered on illustrating problems everyone already knows, but rather, let's focus our energy and efforts today on proposing creative solutions. Let's uplift ease, play, care, friendship, vision casting, and abundance. Let's continue to remind ourselves why we're here, why we need this. Historically, whenever Black people assemble, it's seen as a threat. We must be monitored and controlled. The Charleston massacre demonstrated that even in our prayer and healing spaces, we're targeted. Well-intentioned, inclusive, and POC spaces often result in the erasure of Black experience. Black spaces continue to be vital for Black survival, resistance, and healing. Black voices need space to be heard and preserved. Ultimately, Black space is Black power. I'm inspired by others who carve out Black space, other artists who protect and prioritize Blackness. Nothing about us without us is a slogan that I'm borrowing from South African disability rights advocates of the 80s. It was used to communicate the idea that no policy should be decided by any representative without the full and direct participation of members of the group affected by that policy. Black space matters, Black artists matter, representation matters, reparations matter. And the first step in changing the power dynamic, as one of you mentioned in your registration question, is we must dispel the myth that uplifting one racial group directly harms others. For example, having grants specifically for BIPOC artists does not mean white artists are disenfranchised. Let us remember, we can all eat. Thank you for being here today. Okay. Some of you are here for community building, while others are here for nation building. Some folks have joined us today to learn new strategies, while others have graciously gathered to share effective models. One of you said you were excited about the possibilities at the intersection of art and new media tech. And another said that you were gearing up to lead a group of technology and art educators with a new national project. Lots of you inquired about grant writing support, and some of you said you support Black-led arts organizations with grant writing. One of you asked about worker co-ops and cooperative live workspace ownership. And another one of you mentioned that you were currently developing an accessible and inclusive $12 million live work 30-unit building for artists and creatives to live and house their creative enterprises. Clearly, there's ripe opportunity for collaboration. And I see it across geography, across screens, and across industries. I've been envisioning today's summit as an electrical circuit, where our connections today enable the flow of knowledge and electricity well beyond the present. So I'd like everyone to leave today with a more practical knowledge of transformative funding practices. I'd like for our funders to leave with real concrete examples of programs, policies, and people who have effectively and successfully shifted the philanthropic needle. And I'd like for the artists in our space to leave with a list of programs, granting organizations, and resources that directly support Black artists, collectives, and Black organizations. So in this segment of our program, I've invited funder Bahia Ramos and artist Brianna Daniels to join me for a conversation that answers some of the questions raised on your registration forms about feasibility, about accountability, care, accessibility, and anti-Blackness. Of course, we are expansive, and our names are generally followed by many other titles and accolades. And Bahia and Brianna, we're going to share your bios in the chat, but it would be lovely for each of you to talk a little bit more about yourselves and your practice. Bahia, I'd love to start with you today.
Whew, thank you. Thank you, everyone. It is so lovely to see this beautiful array of faces this afternoon. I'm Bahia Ramos, originally from Brooklyn. And I've been in the institutional philanthropy game for about 15 years now. I spent 10 years down in Miami at Knight Foundation. And I now, in the last 4 odd years, have been at the Wallace Foundation. So kind of representing different parts of the spectrum. But my background in philanthropy just stems from this innate curiosity around understanding how capital flows from one place to the next, and wanting to influence and understand that concept more closely so that it benefits the people I care most about. And sometimes I've found myself moving through structures that might not have that interest. And I think that I've spent a lot of time trying to create acts of subversion, sometimes very obvious, sometimes not. But I found some homes in institutional philanthropy, and I currently lead art strategy for Wallace, which is a private foundation that works in education and the arts, and work in the arts through institutions and also through youth arts education. So I think that's generally my background. I'm a former dancer. I'm a wannabe DJ and a great and a proud New Yorker. So welcome, everyone. Happy to see you all.
Thank you so much, Bahia, for being here. I'm so excited to be in your company. Brianna, introducing yourself as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brianna. I am a native of Charlotte, North Carolina, where the roll-up CLT is placed. I am the program manager there. I am a lifetime artist, also a dancer. Samba is my go-to right now. Feels best in my body, but I love to dance to house music and anything that's got a good groove that connects to the heart. And I'm a yoga instructor, a Reiki practitioner, new to DJing, but we're gonna, give y'all some movement today. And I just love being here and being with Black people and helping Black artists thrive and connect with themselves so that they can create what they need to create. Yeah, that's a good foundation, I think.
Perfect. Thank you both for those introductions. The pre-program survey shared a lot of insight into the personal and professional goals that you all in the audience have created for yourselves. And one of the most popular inquiries that we received from the funders was, how can I find more and better support BIPOC artists and arts organizations? And one of the most popular inquiries from the artist group overwhelmingly inquired about specific resources, funders, and programs that explicitly support Black artists, collectives, and organizations. So I'm seeing a disconnect here. I wonder about feasibility. And so Bahia, my question to you that we received from the pre-program survey is, quote, is ethical equitable funding an oxymoron? In other words, can systems of philanthropy truly be liberatory, or does it need to be dismantled? And or how can public funding work to dismantle the very institutions and systems that it operates in? I invite your thoughts.
So I think that ethical, equitable funding is possible. I think it takes time. I think that I can only speak, right now, I will only speak about Wallace, because the unfortunate thing about philanthropy is that one foundation truly represents one foundation. And while there is more transparency and conversation between us all about our practices and who we see, thanks to the work of GIA in particular, right? I think that, and we're letting go of some of that preciousness of the work that we do so that we can create a more equitable ecosystem within the arts. It really relies on our day-to-day kind of sense of what's out there and how we get out there. And I think for us, we had to open ourselves up, and instead of trading on this notion of like field experts who guide us and tell us who's out there and who they feel good about, we wanted to ask in our new initiative who's out there and create an invitation and make sure that invitation got into spaces where we might feel deeply uncomfortable or have no history or relationship with, but we made sure to show up for and learn about and be available to, and be in conversation, not just in the beginning and after somebody gets funded, but answering the questions throughout the process to say, you know, as I say to my program officers, a lot of this work, you are sometimes conditioned to be in the practice of learning how to say no. How do we get to a yes? How do we become more of an advocate for organizations who we don't know and who might be searching and align with the work that we are doing, but might not have the same terminology and language around it as we do? How do we become translators? How do we become partners in this search and advocates for, and how do we help them leverage not just our relationship with them, but use our relationship to leverage and get access to other potential relationships out there? So I think it's really like a mindset shift that might start with someone inside asking the question and finding other allies. I know I had to start by asking a question and ask for allyship within my organization and understand that this was all imperfect. And this is all to say, like, I've had a lot of record scratches along the way, like deeply, just conversations that were uncomfortable and difficult. But the result was like, how do I get to a place of advocacy and partnership and be authentic with that? And I think that's my best answer for that question.
I really appreciate that. But yeah, of course, you're speaking from the perspective of a funder, and Brianna, you're going to be representing our artist community. And so I'd like to ask you a question about accountability. One of the pre-program questions that we got on our responses was, our mission, quote, is to use art to create social change. How can we sustain ourselves in this work without compromising our values in pursuit of funding? And how can Black artists and Black-led organizations push back on foundations about equitable practices without putting funding and reputations at risk? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Bahia mentioned the authenticity element for immigrant, and it made me think of the accountability to the artist and how I often experience the performance element. Although I am a performer, I don't feel compelled to be performing for the funds. I want to just be making the art. And my art is not for this larger structure to be able to say that they did the thing. It's more to make sure that I am able to continue to create the art. So yeah, that's what came up for me, accountability, being able to say, hey, this is what we're doing, and that's all that actually matters. And these other hoops and markers of value that the industry has created are more important than the art that you're creating.
I wanted to add something about liberatory frameworks, because I think for Wallace, we're explicitly working with arts organizations of color right now. And I think one of the biggest questions we get is it okay that I'm trying to design a workshop that, or a framework and a way of operating that doesn't need you, that really is about me and my community? And I'm like, hell yes, right? And I'm like, any way I can shuttle the best resources to help that happen is a proof of like the deep kind of like getting away from this notion of resilience and like reliance upon these inherently oppressive systems is a kind of innovation I want to enter into the marketplace that I think would be a primary benefit to like the entire ecosystem. So, you know, when people say, does this work against what you represent? I say it might be, but I mean, does what I represent really need to represent in the way it does in perpetuity? No, I think I invite being part of the resources that go towards that solution. And so I think liberation and freedom should be something that's considered when entering these partnerships.
I'm so grateful that you brought up this idea of partnerships, because I think about this in terms of our use of terms like care and support. You know, beyond the financial awards, how are we truly caring for each other? And Bahia, you talked a little bit earlier, but I wonder, the question that was raised from this group was, quote, how do you demonstrate care for grantees? With so many different priorities and personal goals, how do you meet people where they are? How do you build authentic relationships and establish trust?
I think it starts with honesty and transparency and knowing where the boundaries are and what's sacred and what you can push out on. And so, you know, for us, while we might not be the general operating support funder, right? We're not quite there. We're honest about not being quite there, but we have said things like, okay, let's take a year to plan. What if you had time and space to breathe for a year before you jumped into this aspirational work? How do you get things out of your way? Working with us is not just about launching into something that's of primary benefit. There has to be mutual reciprocity and benefits between in the work that we do. And so there's one, planning money to just get stuff out of the way, no questions asked. And two, we try to really understand and like lift up the wisdom in the room and come together in the ways that the grantees want, our partners want to come together, and make sure that we are responsive to the things they lift up. We're research-based, so we're talking a lot of using words and different concepts that might not work. And when they say this doesn't work, this word is just awful, we're like, oop, like, you're right, like, we're sorry, and let's talk about that and let's work it out and get to a better place. But it really is about like caring for and showing up and providing space and being honest and upfront with each other and not making us an opaque, dark system like hanging that is around compliance.
Thank you for that. And Brianna, as an artist, I wonder specifically, what kind of support do you require beyond funding? You know, this could be transportation, this could be mental health support, this could be childcare. Like, let's name some things as an artist beyond money that would be advantageous for you as an artist.
Well, as you mentioned, like childcare, like I don't have children, but I know a number of artists who may not be able to show up to shows or create the art that they want to because of their family scenarios or not having access to transportation. Personally, the money is the foundation, I think, for a lot of that. If an artist has access to the funding, they can get childcare. Now, if a funder wants to present that option within their system to support an artist, that feels like care, to have that model already established in part of the work. Yeah, that feels important. I feel like we do a really good job of that at the roll-up. You know, we ask the artists what they need when they get there, before they get there. And we also kind of think with the artist about things that they may have even mentioned in passing and offer a solution around that. and I've seen how beneficial it's been for the artists that we've had with us. And I know as an artist, it would be nice to hear, to know that I'm being heard with a funder or an entity that's naming that they want to support me, and like hear that thing that I, kind of mention in passing and say, oh, well, we know something about that. We have some resources for that. These are the resources for that. It's the active listening, the open conversation, and really connecting with the artists beyond, the titles.
Yes, active listening, meeting folks where they are. I think those are so key, Brianna. Thank you for that. This is, as we're talking about care and support, Bahia, I think about care and support for Black people and Black artists. And I'd like to take a moment and broaden our discussion and think a little bit more intersectionally. I love Bahia because you're giving us such insights into Wallace and what you guys are up to and what's on the docket. What strides have you seen across the field or in your own place of work that support the underserved and underrepresented groups, including access related work like accessibility for deaf, mad, disabled artists, and inclusion work for folks who identify as queer, non-binary, transgendered, neurodivergent persons, or support for specific regional groups like Southern artists. And I wonder also, this was a question from our collective who's here with us today, quote, is there a way to embed these practices in grant making, or strategically, is it better to create a specific grant making program?
I think Eddie can probably best answer this question because he sees such a broad and diverse picture. But I would say from my vantage point, I think some of the work was happening before COVID, but I think with COVID and the racial reckoning and just there was this desire, finally, there was like a moment in which the navel gazing could no longer happen because everyone was in the streets, everyone saw the suffering, and we could not be bystanders to what was happening. And I think that moment created an ability for us, one, the responsiveness, there was urgency around this. And so in doing things like COVID relief funds, we entered a dialogue with each other around, the data around disparities. Really, there are things you just could not avoid. And I think it enabled us to think about structures that enabled people to get faster access to funds so that they could be helped and their livelihoods could be sustained. And I think that primarily, I would say specifically within New York City, that conversation on a programmatic level between foundations continued in small parts. And so as we're looking by, and my grantees ask me, like, how are you talking to other funders about the work that I do? And, I'll say, okay, it's not a memo that we pass back and forth, but do I talk to my colleagues and say, look at this list, talk about that? If I have a grantee, if I'm in a room with other funders and a grantee says to me, I want to talk to the folks over there, I make sure I make the introduction, and I'm more proactive about that kind of network building, because I realize that the foundation of those relationships don't start so easily, aren't so easily accessed by folks. And to the extent that I can play a role in being a connector through this work, I would.
Thank you for this. I want to end our session in talking about anti-Blackness. Brianna, how can we continue to center and uplift Black artists amongst anti-Blackness that occurs throughout the communities and systems that we work directly with? We received an anonymous comment from one of our attendees who said, as an artist, quote, who was recently went through backlash because a community did not want a Black woman painted in their city. What can artists do when there's these situations arise? How can we bring to the forefront how some of these communities and cities do not want people of color painted on their walls and buildings?
I've heard this happen a number of times, and it's pretty infuriating because from my experience, it's often Black art that people want to use to make something more valuable, but rarely want to compensate the artist for the Black art. So I think that it's up to other, larger entity artist funding scenarios to like call these other communities out. I think the artist is already going to do that, But if a funder hears or sees something about that, because they have a similar connection or framework to whatever understanding or measure, I think that it would be the grant makers like opportunity there to support the Black artists with their communication with other grant makers. Like, hey, this is not in alignment with your principles or the things that you're saying that you want to do, and what kind of structures do you need to create to shift that? Or pick up this artist, right? Like, if this one entity doesn't want the Black art, then someone else can scoop them up and help them. Let's get the art out there ultimately, you know?
Thank you for this. But here, this is the worst question to end on, but I think it's going to resonate so much with so many people who are present in our space today. How do you navigate the anti-Blackness that you face as a grant maker in philanthropy? I'm laughing because I understand that this question is large and I don't want you to end here. I'm going to find a way to bring us back to joy. We are all navigating.
Like, how do I live my life each day? How do I walk into these spaces? I think, so I'm a fierce believer in kind of just evolving as a person and understanding and like having deep empathy and never diminishing, not being in spaces where like my light, my joy is like intentionally diminished. And so there are times I would say I work in a place that's grounded in the values of white supremacy, and I see the matrix on some level, and I'm like, okay, let me like step to the left, let me move to the right, let me go down 2 inches, and then let me the direct hit, right? And so it's kind of like there's a sort of maneuvering and navigational technique that I think one adopts after just when you enter these spaces. What I do know is that it is not always 100% like there are openings, and these are the things that like, it's why I continue. I can be in this space and not feel oppressed on a daily basis, that there actually are allies or people who want to be allies, and there are ways to shift power. And sometimes it takes exposure, it takes education, it takes real conversation, it takes being uncomfortable with people for a while to get there. But I continually, try not to just like adopt this wholesale, but really expose myself to trainings, to people, to inspirational folks who keep me going and afloat, and try to insert some of that work into the work that I do. And the second that I don't think I'll ever lose that, but the second I feel like it can't be used, then I know it's not the place for me. But I see so many Black folks in private philanthropy these days that I'm like super hopeful that maybe, like, you know, in whatever way, we are really starting to, and people, our allies of like our whole communities of color are like really working together and building deeper understanding and intentionality towards making sure that this doesn't continue to happen. This oppression doesn't continue to happen under our watch.
Thank you for that. And so maybe we're centering the joy by thinking about our framework for today. And so as I mentioned, we're going to have a 30-minute session, and then we're going to move into some body movement. But before we move into the body movement, I'd like to open up the floor. If there are any further questions from the group, there's some things in the chat if anyone would like to uplift them. I invite you to raise your hand and our team will call on you so that you can ask your question in the space. Please feel free. Sherilyn, you see any hands? Okay, Tamaj.
Hi, everyone. I don't have a question, but I just had something, I guess, to offer. I sent it in the chat as well. I wanted to share, I don't know if I'm the only Canadian here, but I work for Toronto Arts Council. I developed and manage the Black Arts funding program that we have. And I just wanted to share that if anyone is interested, I dropped a link to our co-design process. We took a bit of a different approach in developing this program. We consulted with 300 Black artists and arts workers through surveys and focus groups, and we developed a report called a Black Arts Funding for a Black Arts Future. So I shared that link. If anyone is interested in, has questions about how this program came to be, like where we're at now, what's come out of it. I think it's been a really successful program, one of our most lied to programs at the council. So yeah, it's been really great. And if anyone has questions, I'm here to answer them, and I'd be happy to connect with anyone here. And thank you to all the speakers. This has been really great so far.
Camille.
Hi, and my lighting is bad now. I'm going to go into a better space in a little bit when it's time for me to speak. But I wanted to thank you both for all of your comments and reflection. As somebody who has only seen an option for starting your own things as a solution, this just resonated really deeply. Sometimes the amount of time that you have to wait for something to get done, or wait for somebody to see your vision or understand all of the baseline language, it feels like you may as well just start your own things. And I do find that when people who experience an issue create, they tend to operate in a more equitable lens. So, maybe that really is the pathway at this point, is to just, how you talk about giving people a seat at the table. Maybe it looks like giving people room to build their own tables, right? So I just want to thank you for all of your comments and totally agree with them all.
There was another hand raised in the group. Madaha?
Yes, thank you. It's so great to be here with all of you. Is my volume okay? I've been playing with it all day. All right, thank you. I rushed to submit my registration, so I didn't get a chance to give the question that is just burning and continues to burn at this moment. Another opportunity that we have, another time when the evidence has been presented across the globe between George Floyd and everything else that has brought it up once again, and the more and more people acknowledging in the structure their culpability and that of their companies and their wealth and everything else. How do we, and I guess also you, Bahia, use this opportunity to show why something special, different, and preferential is called for in terms of our organizations, our communities, our businesses? Yes, preferential. How do we get to that? And how do we use this moment to get it while it is fresh and ripe?
I don't have an absolute answer for that. I say that that's the work that's happening right now, right? I think in the attempt to build these new relationships, in an attempt to take resources where they should have gone and been, I think I'm always the one raising my hand, like impact over intentions, folks. Like, let's really do away with like, oh, but our intentions are so pure because we give away money, and really like interrogate the structures under which that money has been designed to be given away. And I think we're in that work right now, and it's messy as hell, right? And I am not the person who, I can't be the only person responsible for leading that work or bringing that work up here. And so I don't have an absolute answer, but I know that that is happening more often than not in more places than it used to happen. And then this is something that I keep saying, we can't do this work if we don't truly know like how we are implicated and why this even existed in the first place. And I think we've gotten really clear on that.
Thank you for that. We have time for one more question. Edwige, I'd love to invite you to unmute yourself and ask your question. And Erin, if you'd like to, you can post your question in the chat and folks can respond in that fashion.
Thank you, Jessica. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you to you all for just being in this space. It's been great to hear this conversation. I think my question is, you know, I keep hearing about support and outreach and changing things. But for me, I feel like there's still, like I think about what $1 million could do to 20 organizations that are in their infancy versus continuing to sort of put money into the organizations that have gotten support for many, many years and sort of have built their operating budgets around that. And so I'm just thinking about, what does risk look like for foundations? What does taking a chance look like? What does it look like to free folks of having to report back and prove their worth when we know, as Brianna beautifully illustrated, like we're already making an impact as artists? So any thoughts would be great.
I can only say that when we, so, you know, Wallace is a structure that works with a small number of organizations at one time and then gives them a lot of money over 5 years. And when we did this, we said, wow, you know, for the first time, I think maybe the first time, Wallace said, wait, we're ignoring a huge swath. So through partnerships, actually, we designed for 2023, that vehicle for which organizations who don't have budgets from $0 to $500,000 throughout the country and can have access to dollars with no requirement other than we're working with our partners to create a common, simple application that can be translated, that can be whatever it is. It's like, how do we design the thing that everybody feels welcome to submit their information towards, but it has no preference, and then literally from zero budgets to $500,000 over the next 3 years, so that we can better resource small organizations, young organizations, all of color, all explicitly of color, because we know they are the primary driver of like innovation and motivation within the arts. So this is really an experiment, and I think foundations have to be willing to experiment and just try to design the lifeline in the ways that we can. But this is just something that we are trying to do over the next 3 years, beginning next year. Stay tuned, everyone, to try to do exactly what you're asking for, Edwige.
But yeah, Brianna, it has been such a pleasure to spend this afternoon with you all. Thank you so much for launching our program and for being here and sharing so much of yourselves with us today. Folks will be able to reach out to you post-program, and this is a space for that. So if you have further questions for Bahia or Brianna, please just remember them and we can follow up after our session today. So thank you again, both of you, for being here. Looking forward to connecting again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank y'all.
So lovely. Okay, so now we're going to have an opportunity to move our bodies. That was a lot. We just, there was a lot of information that was downloaded. There's a lot of things to process, a lot of new ideas and light bulbs that were popping up. And so I'd love to invite Heather Manning to join us in this space to lead us through whatever Heather wants to lead us through. Heather spoke a great deal about finding love in a hopeless place, and maybe we can find some opportunity to play Rihanna in our day together. But Heather, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your work, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you so much, Jessica, and thank you for everyone who has spoke so far or performed. As soon as you announced the movement, I saw Clara waving her arms. Shout out for that gentle introduction to the movement that's to come. I won't spend too much time speaking about myself. We only have 5 minutes for this movement, and so we'll just jump right in. I would also like to invite anyone to use this time to obey their own impulses. So if this is a time you want to get up, grab some water, use the bathroom, do all those things. My second statement will be that everything I say is an invitation. So please honor where you're at today. Nothing here, if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. And please take this moment to turn your cameras off if you're comfortable with that. Let me go ahead and set my timer here for 5 minutes. Great. And so we're going to be doing some movement that will involve the face, the neck, the spine, and hopefully the wrist if we get to it. And so before we get started on that, I'm going to invite you just to gently close your eyes, check in with yourself, notice how the body is feeling in this moment, and sort of sense yourself in space. I encourage you to remove your shoes if you have them on, if that's possible, but just grounding your feet into the earth. So really connecting with that sensation of being supported in this moment. Notice if you can maybe sit up a little taller, soften the shoulders, if this is available to you. If it's not, keep it moving, right? Now maybe take a nice full deep breath in through the nose, exhaling all the way out. And this time we're going to inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. So let's just take a moment, take a nice full breath in through the nose. And as you exhale through the mouth, let the tongue hang out. Maybe make that sound. Let's try that one more time. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling out through the mouth. Gently opening the eyes. Let's take a moment to do a little bit of eye movement. We're going to be doing a lot of outward gazing. And so you want to honor all the muscles in these eyeballs. And so on your next inhale, I invite you to shift your gaze all the way up. Exhale, front and center. Inhale, shift the gaze all the way down. Inhale, front and center. On your next inhale, go ahead and shift the eyes to the left. Rotate them back front and center. Inhale to the right. Rotate them back front and center. On your next inhale, look up towards the corner of your left eye. Exhaling down to the corner of your right side. Inhale front and center. Inhaling up towards the corner of the right eyeball. Exhaling down towards the left corner. And then inhaling front and center. Now this is some fun. We're gonna go ahead and begin to inhale our eyes up and then make some circles all the way around, following the breath. So letting the breath sort of guide this movement. I know that sounds like yoga talk. So listen, if it resonates, if it doesn't, that's fine. And then when you're ready, go ahead and rotate the eyeballs in the opposite direction. Nice and gentle, right? We're not having wild movements here. Okay. We'll do that a few times. And then come back front and center. Great. Let's go ahead and drop the chin to the chest. And just pause here. Notice this, this movement or the sensation in the back of your neck here. Continue that deep, intentional breathing we started in the beginning. And then maybe on your next inhale, I invite you to shift your chin, or let your chin rather slowly carve its way to the right shoulder. You don't need to actually go all the way up. You just want to gently create a little bit of activation here in the neck, breathing in this space. And then on your next inhale, or your next exhale rather, come back front and center to the center, chin still down. And then we'll inhale up towards the left shoulder, or whatever side you're on now, the opposite side. Breathe here for a few breath cycles. And then come back down, chin front and center. And then slowly just lift the chin up. Coming front and center. Great. Bring the hands to heart center. We're going to interlace the fingers and keeping the thumbs out, bring your hands to the back of your neck. Notice if the thumbs are able to sort of rest on either side of your neck. Sort of your hands should be cradling the base of the skull here. Allow your elbows to sort of radiate out a bit. And then pressing into the hands, lift the chin just a little bit. So you should feel this in the thoracic spine or the space between your shoulder blades, the middle of the back. Full deep breaths here. And then gently release the hands. Now using these beautiful hands, let's go ahead and do a little bit of facial massage here. So you can close your eyes, starting in the center of the forehead. I like to make circular motions using my first two fingers. So whatever feels, again, right for you, and just move your way down, showing all these muscles in the face some love, maybe giving your jaw a little extra love here. That space where the jaw connects right by the ear always needs a little extra love in my life. So maybe you also need that. Ooh, 5 minutes is up. Keep moving down. We're gonna keep it moving. We got 2 more minutes. Moving all the way around. Great. Release the hands. Now we'll just do a few more movements before concluding. So I want you guys to lift your shoulders up to the ears and then rotate the shoulders back. So we'll just do this a few times, just classic shoulder circles. I like to get really in there and just get it in. And then when you're ready, reverse directions. Come into stillness. And before we conclude, we're going to make some funny sounds with our mouths. We'll do some mouth yoga. And so I'll look goofy for y'all because I can't see you. So knowing that no one can see you, please use that to really accentuate these movements. And so we're going to make the ah sound with our mouth. So really letting the lips move away from the teeth. So we'll do that. Ah. And then we'll switch to oh. So we really have a circular motion here or movement with the mouth. Oh. And then E. So really like grinning like a maniac. E. Let's do that one more time. Ah. Oh. E. Okay, and release. This is the last thing. And so our jaw is directly connected to our hips. Oftentimes we are clenching our jaw and clenching our hips, both places store stress. And so I just want you to take a moment and notice if you are clenching in the hips and the buttocks, and just go ahead and release on your exhale. Allow yourself to be soft in the hips and the pelvis. Maybe take a few more deep inhales and exhales. Grounding yourself in this space before we move in to the next session. And again, take whatever movement you might need before we close out. So if you want to stand up and shake it out, go ahead and stand up. Yes, Clara, amen. That's the kind of movement we need, yes. Clara is exhibiting excellent shaking. And so that's a great way to release any lingering tension that we might have accumulated already today. All right, y'all, thank you very much. And I'll see you after the next session.
Heather, that was great. I'm feeling so much more relaxed and ready to continue with our session today. So thank you for that. I'm so grateful for you. And Heather will be joining us in between the 30-minute session. So you will see Heather again. Thank you for that break. Welcome back, everyone. So again, I'd love for you to consider, continue to imagine our space as a duplex. Remember, we've got that one side of our shared home, completely public space. All are welcome to attend and are encouraged to be in dialogue, share and learn from each other. Accessible, open to all. And then beyond that wall on the other side of our shared home is situated as a Black autonomous space that invites the participation of only those who identify as Black. In one of the spaces, we'll be joined by Malcolm Peacock and Camille Bailey in the rest space. And what we're referring to as the work space will be invited by, I've invited Michael Farber and Janelle Young to join me for a conversation. Malcolm and Camille, I'd love for you to use this as an opportunity to speak a bit about yourselves and your practice. Malcolm, I'd love to begin with you. Let's hear a little bit about who you are, what you're up to, and why you're here today. Hey, handsome.
Okay, great. Unmute button was disappearing upon me there for a second. Hi to everybody, especially familiar faces. Good to see you, Takara. Yeah, so I am here by way of my good sister Jessica, and delighted to be like in shared company with a lot of people that I really respect, many of which I haven't had the opportunity to have much face-to-face time with. So that's one big reason for being here. But upon Jessica and Sherilyn's requests, I'm similarly interested in like sort of these ways that Black creators and Black creatives and these arts workers, arts organizers have access to proximity with each other, and what that like how that happens, like how that is created for one, because it isn't necessarily like given. Often in times of like maybe in like necessarily organized or funded space. So I guess thinking about how those types of spaces come to be and are organized, and then also like how they're maintained, sustained, upheld, and really like the diligence that it takes to stay like, let's say, succinct or really dedicated to their purpose. So yeah.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
Could you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your work as well?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I am Camille. I am co-founder of a co-working space called Emerald City, Pittsburgh. That space was birthed out of work that stemmed from some other organizations that we founded, the first one being Greenwood Week Pittsburgh, which is a Black business conference that caters to the Black experience for entrepreneurs. From that, we created the Greenwood Plan nonprofit, which looks to expand that work beyond just classes, but creating, space making, and that's how Emerald City came to be. Before that, I started a Black business directory for the region. So my lens is really all Black everything. So when we had the discussion earlier around, sometimes it looks like creating your own things and being very intentional and specific, that's really where my lane has come up. So all the work that has really come from my labor is through the lens of creating spaces for Black folks to be unapologetically Black, whatever that may look like for you, and really having space to explore, right? Freedom. So that's really what that space looks like.
I appreciate that, Camille. So Camille and Malcolm will be discussing creating spaces, protecting spaces with intention that are thoughtful, responsive, mindful. The question that we gathered from this group was, can artists survive outside of the mainstream canons? And does that mean we need to create new canons? So we'll pause that there in the rest space. And in the workspace, as I mentioned, I'd invited funder Michael Farber and Janelle Young to speak about, we're going to talk about relationship building, measurable outcomes, allyship, and working with vulnerable communities. Both Michael and Janelle are funders and artists and represent what the future of philanthropy could look like. Michael and Janelle, welcome. I'd love for you to put your voices in the space and say a bit about who you are and why you're here.
Thank you, Jessica. I guess I'll jump in here. Hi, everyone. So great to be here. I see a few familiar faces. I'm Michael Farber. I'm the founder of the Breakout Foundation. We give direct and unrestricted funding for communities all across the country. And basically, we're the 501c3 Breakout, which is events and community business. And over the past 8 years, we've created and connected grassroots leaders all across the country through multi-day programming. So to date, we've done about $400,000 across 104 grantees. We've helped advise over $5 million in grant making, and we've put about $2 million to work into local leaders through our event series.
Thank you for that. All right, I'm not sure if Janelle is here, if she dropped the call, so we're just going to keep moving and keep it funky, and when she joins us, she can join us. So now you all have an option as attendees. You can join us in the rest space with Malcolm and Camille, or you can join us in the workspace with Michael and Janelle. So I'll let you make your choices now, and then I'll see you in the other room. Thank you so much for being here. Sherilyn, I just want to troubleshoot. Are our rooms coming soon?
Yep, the rooms are here. We've got folks going into the rest space now, which is great. So that's fantastic. Either stay here, like Jessica said, or if you are Black identifying, then you can go into the rest space. We respectfully ask you to stay here if you are not Black identifying, but there is something for everyone. So yeah, you're on it. I'm seeing questions in the chat as well, so trying to address everything here. But yeah, things are moving along great.
Excellent, thank you. You know, I can only see from one.
Of course. I hear you.
I appreciate it. Okay, so Michael, you gave us a great intro to Breakout, but can you just tell us a little bit about how you got here? Where did it all?
No, totally. And thank you for having me, Jessica. It's been fun listening to everyone. And there's so many things that have been said. It's interesting. I don't know who said it maybe like 20 minutes ago, but it was something about just kind of making our own table or creating our own funding mechanism and what we're not seeing. I think for me, I don't come from the nonprofit foundation world. Like this world's like kind of new to me in many ways. I'm an entrepreneur, two-time entrepreneur, and I've basically over the past like 14, 13 years built really events and community businesses. So to me, I went into building Breakout, which was a community for basically change makers because of the need I saw for just bringing together entrepreneurs and creatives from all different, walks of life and backgrounds. And I, in my previous life, built a company from like 6 of us to 100 of us in a totally different sector, but I was overseeing almost 300 events a year, and they were all panels. And like, I absolutely was like, get me away from like a panel series. Like at the end of the day, when we think about our closest relationships, we're not meeting them in those spaces. We're meeting them. Maybe we grew up with some of these individuals. Maybe we're meeting them in more fun settings. Even when you go to conferences, you think about the amount of time you're maybe outside of the talk, or you're having like a drink afterwards. And so it's like when you get to know someone on a more personal level and you feel like you have a real connection, you're more excited to find a way. It's just human nature. We know that this is a big reason why there's disparate funding mechanisms, right? We know that historically white men predominantly are getting the majority of funding because of these ways that space is created. So for us, I think what's been really exciting is we kind of got into funding backwards and by accident. We didn't think we were going to create a foundation, but in 2014, we started doing these multi-day event experiences. And I feel really lucky, Camille Bailey, who just jumped into the other room into speaking. We just finished an event in Pittsburgh, but I actually was working from our co-working space for like 7 months, which is like absolutely fantastic. But when we do our breakout events in different cities, we get to work with individuals like Camille and basically create like a 25 to 30 activation event across multiple cities, across the city, showcasing artists, chefs, social entrepreneurs, so on and so forth. And what we just kept hearing over and over again was, I don't have access to some of these bigger institutional foundations. They're only giving money to the same people that they already know. I'm a one-off activist or artist. I don't fit the box for, what people are. I'm also not my own 501c3, so I can't be given money. All of these different reasons just kept coming up over and over again. And so we actually were like making no money from our for-profit at the time, but one of our community members said, hey, I'm meeting all these great people at your events. If you all create a 501c3, I would love to help you in trying to maybe crowdfund some initial money to start putting grants to work. And we said, let's do that. So for us, the biggest thing was like, we wanted to give money like quick and easy. So the majority of grantees will know, like who've worked with us know, like Zelle Pay, PayPal, like any way we can like quickly get you money, we want to do that. The vast majority of our grants that we've given have predominantly been through Instagram challenges. And the reason we started doing that back in 2017 was we had a pretty large following, and it was people who were community leaders across the country in cities we've done, you know, Baltimore, Miami, Atlanta, Detroit. And so we just wanted them to nominate people that they saw doing the work. And we didn't want to be like this like entirely complicated process, especially at the level that we've been giving, which started off $1,000. We've done actually up to $20,000, but predominantly we sit in like the $1,000 to $5,000 range. And so we want to give money quick and fast. And quite frankly, we found that more often than not, we're like the first check that anyone sometimes has ever gotten, or we're a very, very early check. So, you know, I think it's amazing hearing like Bahia and Wallace that they're going super deep and for a long time with specific people. That takes such stress away, I think, when you're at that deeper level. But for us, I kind of see us as like, if like a Wallace is like the major leagues of like foundation work, we're like single A, like we're in the same way, I guess, like if you're someone who's building like a for-profit business, you would get like venture capital or friends and family funding. I see us as friend and family grant making, in the sense of like, we don't care what you're like, what it looks like in the end. If you're doing good work and your community thinks you're doing good work, we just want to give you money. So that's been our thing, which has been, I think, pretty special. And really, I keep learning new foundation buzzwords like trust-based philanthropy. I guess that's what we've been doing really since the beginning, because we started with the community first, building access and I think trust with them. And then we asked them to work with us along the process in nominating leaders to give money to.
That was lovely. I have so many more questions. I want to welcome Janelle to the chat. Janelle, welcome. Thank you for being here. No problems. This is fun. It's stress-free. You came right when you supposed to. It's all good. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm excited to be here.
Would you like to use this as an opportunity to introduce yourself, tell folks a little bit about who you are and what brought you here?
Absolutely. So my name is Janelle Young. I go by JY Originals. I am a visual artist, painter, muralist, public artist, community artist. And so a lot of the work I do involves bridging folks together, whether that's organizations, whether that's residents in a community, or just playing around with the experience that people have with the arts. So I am originally from Pittsburgh. I currently live in Chicago. I used to live in New York. So I have like a few different cultural experiences that have influenced me as an artist and my understanding of how the arts are funded. And so, you know, I originally, my move to New York was to work in corporate, learned a bunch of things, great time. And then I was like, I actually think I need to do something more creative. And I ended up going into art full time, also by accident. That was not like my plan, but it is what happened and what called me. And I ended up working for a mural organization in New York, which kind of opened my eyes to a different structure of how artists could get paid a living wage to do their work. And then from there, I kind of built out JY Originals, doing public art in other cities and freelancing and offering my services as a muralist. And then how I ended up here, along that journey, I, for a bunch of different reasons, was kind of called back to Pittsburgh to work on a project, which is one of my favorites to this day. The Home Court Advantage project was the first mural basketball court in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And it was actually in the neighborhood I grew up in, which was something that was important because it is a predominantly and historically Black neighborhood, which typically did not get things first. right? So for me to go back and do this project as one of the first of its kind was important. It was significant. And the whole idea for me was I wanted to get the community involved and invested. But at the same time, I needed funding. And I, coming from New York, stepping back into the Pittsburgh scene where a lot of people didn't know me as an artist, right? It was a challenge for me to figure out who to talk to go and get that funding. And I found myself then in a fortunate position where, I was just tapping into, some of the relationships I had, and people were willing to help me network and introduce me to folks. And eventually I was able to get a grant to supplement the project and take care of some of the costs, and also my time and my fee as an artist. But it took 11 months for the planning and funding to go through. And it only took me 10 days to paint the project. So it was just a time where I knew that if I was going through this, that other artists and other creative people were also experiencing the same thing. And I think that's exactly what Michael was speaking on as I came in, was, waiting for a check to clear, or, not even knowing where to go to get the check or how to apply to get the check. There are so many obstacles for a lot of folks. And I just came to realize the privilege that I had as far as being able to network, being able to express my ideas, being able to write well in order to apply to grants, and having kind of the business knowledge and background from one, working in corporate, and two, having a degree in business marketing were really helpful for me as an artist. And I realized that everyone does not have that. And so that project finally came to fruition. I was surprised by the fact that I was awarded a proclamation for that project on that day. So October 23rd in Pittsburgh is Janelle Young Day, which is still crazy to me. But what I wanted to do with that, I know that it's in my name, right? But it was about that project and the process of working with the community. And so what I wanted to do the following year was offer a scholarship for young creatives who are trying to work on a project and they just need a little assistance. I also am starting small. $1,000 is where I'm at right now, that I offer each year. This is the third year I've been able to offer that. And my hope is to continue expanding the age range so I can offer multiple tiers and different things like that. But the whole point of the scholarship, yes, is for someone who ideally is, they have a vision for what their project is, or, what they want to do. But the idea is that the funds are unrestricted. Sometimes you need money for a project, but it's actually I need to pay my rent, and that way I can work on my project. Or sometimes it's I need to feed my family, and then that way I can work on my project. So I don't have to work on other things at this very moment. So I wanted the funds to be unrestricted in a way that would allow the creativity to shine. And the past two winners have been able to do some really amazing things, whether that money went directly to, new camera equipment or materials, or for, entering a dance competition, or just to live so that they could exist as the creative beings that they are and share their gifts with the world.
Thank you. I was typing a question in the chat, but I'm gonna just uplift it because there was a moment in the conversation. Michael, how many folks has Breakout supported since its inception? How many artists with grants and awards?
Well, we've given with our grants 104 to date. probably at least a third, if not greater, are, like visual artists, like specifically. We kind of have like a broader look at how we give grant making. But this was our year to date, we've done about $155,000. So our year one was $10,000. So every year we've been doubling, and we're hopefully earmarking to double again next year at least. So yeah, we're very much, and I should say to date, the foundation side's all volunteer. So our LLC side, we build out events, but then our board and then some of our team members, I budget some of the hours out of the LLC team to assist on some of the foundation work. So yeah.
Appreciate that. I'd like to talk to you both about measurable results and outcomes now. We have a lot of discussion about qualitative and quantitative data, of course, but the question that was raised from this group was, quote, grant makers often require measurable outcomes as it relates to the financial investment being made towards the grantees or the nonprofit. What is a reasonable outcome that grant makers should be seeking related to their dollars when investing in arts initiatives designed to boost diversity and or opportunity for Black artists? I guess really the question is, how do we measure and properly report the results / outcomes of racial and equity justice programming? Michael, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I'm laughing, even though I shouldn't be laughing, but I was just thinking of one of our grantees, who was one of our early grantees, whose name is Damian Posey. He's not an artist. He works with like youth and homeless, and he basically, I jokingly call him the people's champ. He just does everything, quite frankly. He's from Bayview in San Francisco. And so we did like a violence prevention challenge. So we gave him $2,500. He messaged me that we're the first group to ever actually give him money. He usually just helps out other organizations. And then I saw over the next 2 weeks that he kept tagging us as he was just showing up to other orgs like events and jumping on the mic and like just like blessing them with like $500 here, $300 there, all from the money we gave him. And I was messaging him on the side. I was like, man, like, feel free to use this for whatever you want to. Like, I get it. He's like, I can't help myself. Like, I just like have to do this. And I kept thinking, I was like, some foundations would be like, wow, that actually is a bad KPI. For us, though, we thought it was so important because he got to be shown as a champion in his community. And, fast forward a little bit, one of our breakout event, community members is head of social innovation at CARE, the International Disaster Relief Organization. And during COVID, they did some funding in the US, which they've never done before. And it was basically prototyping, getting community workers on TaskRabbit to be like last mile delivery service in areas that they might not be able to get. And they prototyped it in the Bay, and we got them to hire Uncle Damian Posey. And they ended up doing like a PBS special on like how effective it was. And so I guess for us, once again, I was kind of saying this in the last time, but we're so okay as a broader society that venture capitalists and people will make, all these investments, but technically like 10%, 15% of actually like have an exit, but that's okay. I don't look at it in that way. For us, it's just like, there's so many people with great ideas, but they don't have the same access to money to make those ideas come to life. And so many entrepreneurs oftentimes fail at 4 ideas until the 5th one works. So for us, we're just trying to get money into people, once again, who've been recognized by their community. I will say we're starting to have conversations with institutional funders who are asking us for more KPIs as they put money behind us. But to date, we've really crowdfunded the money, just like larger crowdfunding. And we've started to have kind of like smaller high net worth, like private families put money behind us in markets they're in. And I think because we have an event side to this, where most of our grantees come to our events, they get to tap in with a network. There's so many like bigger parts besides the money. I think people who are helping fund these initiatives feel okay outside of just the check, because in many ways, the check is just the starting point, I think, in our relationship. So not exactly answering your question, but.
I think it did. And, I present the questions broadly so that you can pick and pull certain things that are applicable to you and them. Janelle, do you have continued thoughts?
I do, because Michael said something great, that the check sometimes is, it's usually the first point of the relationship, right? The first interaction. But for so many Black and brown people, they've been doing the work. They've never gotten paid for it. It's just what they do. It's who they are. And I talk a lot about like, how do you measure impact? It's a very difficult thing. Yeah, I can say, this many people walked past this mural, but then how many of those people went and told somebody about it? How many of those people went and had a conversation offline that changed someone else's thinking? Like, we don't have the tools to really measure that, right? So I think it's super important for larger organizations to get more comfortable being more open-minded about what those KPIs are, and just have more conversation, more genuine interaction, because a lot of times it doesn't translate to numbers, right? And as a person who, like I said, was previously, so my job in corporate, I was a digital strategist. So everything I did was numbers and, what are the impressions and what are the this and what are the that, but the genuine ties that come from one person to the next, that shift from one neighborhood to the next, that shift from one community to the next, those things are going to continue to be difficult to measure.
I have one more question. This is for Michael about allyship. This is presented from the pre-registration questions. There's 2 questions. One is, how can we work in complex systems, remain allies? How can we who work in complex systems remain allies while balancing their complicity in both systemic and individual disparities? And how can we help white fund managers and the general public understand that equity is in fact a humanitarian concern? Michael, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, to the second one, it's kind of mind-blowing if a person's in this space and doesn't believe that. I don't even know why they, quite frankly, would have a job. And I guess I'll say, so one of our board members is a Baltimore visual artist, Chris Wilson, who I met in 2015, right after Freddie Gray. Actually, I'm from outside of Baltimore, went to high school in Baltimore and moved back to build out a program we were doing there. And, he has a book called The Master Plan. It's where he's probably garnered most of his success. But I remember meeting him and he was telling us what this has come up like so many times, but how people weren't paying him on time. He was also running like a small business contracting business at the time, and how he was like behind and like in a really tough spot. And he was formerly incarcerated, so he was having all these issues getting bank loans, this and that. So I remember we were like asking him like, well, we want you to talk at our event. Like, how much do you want? He was like $750, and we Venmo'd him on the spot, which he always says one of 2 things. One, it like really helped entrust us that we were serious, and 2, that he should raise his price and we were to give him the money that quickly. But that second, I guess, joke aside, that's been like a big thing, I guess, for me as like an ally. Like, I've been in so often like the lone like white person, especially white guys in some of these spaces. And I found like showing up as an ally, I just try to underpromise and overdeliver. I try not to like get myself in a space of where I'm overcommitting to anything. And I just like try to write the check. I honestly just like try to get out of the way to do the work. So for me, I think that's a really important thing. And it's just, I guess like the second question, I guess it's kind of crazy to not, as a white funder, look at all this as like economic and racial justice, right? Like, we have such just a massive wealth gap that we know is from systemic oppression from 400 plus years in so many different capacities. I mean, Citibank put out something last year that just I guess they called it, I think, inefficiencies, but basically in all the ways that like Black small business owners are basically just like being cut out from like better access to money, or just the ways that there's just like the racial divide. It's a $5 trillion impact on the economy, which is $5 trillion of wealth not being generated by Black individuals. which is just so big. So it's, to me, the foundation market's actually like a small drop in this bucket at the end of the day, but like it's the entire point is to be ensuring people can move faster to build amazing, great things. And when we're talking about the arts, I think, Jessica, you said it. I mean, there's Black artists for forever have massively over-indexed in the creative like output and like leadership. So it's like, what are we doing otherwise? And so, yeah, I would say we aren't explicit in that we only give to Black artists and creators, but we're close to 90% in our grant making.
That's phenomenal. It has been a pleasure to be in conversation with the both of you today. I hope our audience can look at the screen and see that this is the face of philanthropy. These are your peers in doing the funding work that you do. And if you work at a large foundation, a family foundation, a community foundation, if you've got over $100,000 budget and you learned from Michael or Janelle today, I hope that you compensate them for sharing their energy, effort, and experience with you today. And the compensation doesn't always have to be financial. Often it is just crediting folks for their original ideas and frameworks. And so maybe this is opportunity for consulting projects, Michael and Janelle, as you move forward with these funders, or maybe this is ripe energy for you to be able to collaborate on something new together. You know, you're both doing $1,000 scholarships and awards, so there might be some kind of opportunity for collaboration to happen there. Anywho, Michael and Janelle, it's been such a pleasure today. I really appreciate you taking the time and energy and being with us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jessica.
Right, and everyone will continue, throughout the discussion, you will have Michael and Janelle's contact information. So if you have continued questions or things that you'd like to inquire further about, there's clear lines of communication there, and I'm sure they'd be more than willing to share a little bit of insight about their experience. Okay, and it is perfect time for us to join as a larger group. So we will be transitioning to the next segment now. Just take your time and ease into the larger group. And soon, shortly, I'm going to welcome Brianna to join us. So if Brianna is in the space, breakout rooms are closing in 56 seconds. So our much larger group will be with us. Okay, I'll just take a moment and breathe and process everything that we just experienced. Take a little bit of a moment, welcome the others into the space. For this next session, as you know, we're going to continue to operate in our duplex 2 spaces. In the rest space, Brianna Connor will be leading us through a performance, creating space with intention, use of our body as tool, working intentionally, thoughtfully, responsive, and being mindful. In the workspace, we'll be in conversation with Shaki Scott and Leon Ford. And so as we transition, I'd love to invite all of you all to be on camera and do a bit of an introduction about who you are and what brought you here. Brianna, I'd love to start with you.
Hi, y'all. My name is Brianna Connor. Thank you, Jessica, for the invitation today. Shall I share a little bit about what I'm going to do in this moment?
Yeah, let's hear about your practice and how you got to where you are. And then, yeah, let's talk about what we're going to do for this afternoon.
Fabulous. So a little bit about my practice. I was raised within the classical and contemporary dance space and found a lot of family there, a lot of love there, but also some trauma and some things that I had to unlearn, unpack, release. And I took about 10 years off of dance, out of movement. And so my practice now is about returning back to the body, finding pleasure in the body, and inviting others to do the same. And so I do that with a number of different styles of movement. But one of the things that I've really enjoyed is to invite folks, specifically Black folks, folks of color, queer folks, into natural space to move. And I find that my practice is in large part about returning to the body after trauma, after grief, after big change. And one of the things that I'm going to share with you later is a piece that I created, Dancing with My Mother, which is about caring for myself and being with my mother's legacy after her passing. And so what I'm hoping to do with y'all today is move a little bit and share this, my new home, which is Albuquerque, New Mexico, Tiwa Pueblo land. I'm in the bosque right now, surrounded by cottonwoods, some of our elders, and it is lovely. I think actually we're getting our first snow today. And then I want to lead y'all in a little bit of meditative movement. And then I'll show you my piece at the end. So that's what I'm hoping to share with y'all on this lovely Tuesday afternoon.
Thank you. Leon and Shaki, would you mind introducing yourselves as well? Tell folks about who you are, how you came to philanthropy, and let's do something fun. What's your favorite color? I'll start with Leon.
Good. Thank you. Leon Ford here. My favorite color is black, actually. Yeah, I love black. And I'm the co-founder of the HERE Foundation. And so how I got to philanthropy was through the art of storytelling. I really wanted to give back to the city of Pittsburgh. I saw a huge opportunity to leverage, my story and platform to bring communities together, especially in regards to policing. There are about 17,500 police departments in America, and they're all governed differently. And so I saw Pittsburgh as a special place because of the many different philanthropists in the city, the corporate folks, the activists, and my ability to bring all these different people together to solve for issues that I believed in and issues that, after building a relationship with our former police chief, Scott Schubert, there was a bunch of different things that we disagreed on, but there were 3 issues that we really cared about, and that was gun violence, mental health, and workforce development. And we came together to fund initiatives around those issues. I was really inspired by Janelle and Michael's conversation and what they shared. And it reminded me of my first time getting a check when I was in the cohort of Be Me, when Be Me was giving out $10,000 checks. And the check was amazing. I was really happy to get the check, but more importantly, the community that came along with the check, and to have somebody say, I trust you, I believe in you, and I'm going to empower you. And I think about, that moment and how they empowered me. And years later now, I'm the co-founder of a foundation. We gave away $75,000 this summer. We just announced Grantmaking for another $200,000 that will open up in January. And I'm also an ambassador for a movement called the Heal America movement, where over this summer we gave away about $2 million across 46 different organizations in 7 different states.
Leon, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal.
Thank you. And Shaki, me and Shaki played football together back in the day. That's my brother.
Hey, it's always good to see you, Leon.
Likewise, man.
Thank you for having me, Jessica. My name is Shaki Scott, born and raised Pittsburgh on the east side. Humble beginnings, you know, grew up, people like Leon, you know, we come from tougher times, tougher backgrounds, you know, so, you know, it's made us crazy resilient, crazy strong. And we out here trying to, you know, in lack of a better term, try to make the world a better place for the people from our communities, our families, the people we care about. So, you know, all my work in my life has been kind of centered around that in one way or another. You know, at different points, I've got at that work differently. Going into like college, I was an athlete. I wrestled and I practiced music, did opera, jazz, gospel, R&B. And then just because of like, you know, college and all that, I ended up getting more into like business work. And then when I moved back to the city, started working for the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council. I got to work under some amazing, intelligent, really innovative people. I think one of which of them are in this room today. Tiffany, always give props to Tiffany. And so just learned more about philanthropy, grant making. And I want to go back to Michael's point too, to that like getting a check thing, because it had a different resonance for me. I remember when I got my first grant check, and it wasn't for the arts, and it wasn't for anything you would think of. It was like a random check through like a city council, like all the city council was like broken up in different ways. And someone had like discretionary money. They were cutting checks to like help people. And like someone just sent me an email like, hey, you should apply for this. But it wasn't really advertised. No one really knew about it. And so I did apply. I wrote like a 1-pager, ended up getting a grant. And it like opened my eyes to how closed door things can be, and how like you got to be in the know, and you got to know the right person, and you got to be connected. And that was something I didn't really like. And so in my work now, I'm no longer with the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council. I'm now with the Poise Foundation. I'd like to say I'm extremely happy to be working for the Poise Foundation, a foundation rooted in supporting Black people specifically and exclusively. I do my best to try to, you know, make sure that it's not just about being in network, or, you know, it's not about just, oh, you got to know me to get a grant, or you got to know our CEO or someone on the board. And so like a lot of my work is about getting out there and going to places. I'm at people's churches, I'm at people's events, I'm in people's restaurants, I'm at people's performances. And so my work is really centered on being present and like being at places and spaces. I told my board last week, I need to start tabling at college events too. Like I want to be in the place and in the space. So yeah, that's me, and I'm happy to be here.
Wow, this is already just so juicy and the conversation hasn't even begun yet. So you all attendees have a choice. If you identify as Black, feel free to join Brianna in the rest space where Brianna will be leading the performance. And if you are interested in being in the workspace, you can stay here with Shaki, Leon, and I as we discuss finding joy and pleasure after trauma. And reframing philanthropy. So I'll leave a couple of space. I'll stop talking for 30 seconds and allow everyone to go into their designated spaces. And I'll see you on the other side at 3:15. Cheers. So in case everyone can't see the chat that just popped up, if you're a Black identifying person, you're welcome to join. Select the More button and then select breakout rooms. And after selecting breakout rooms, scroll down and click rest space, Black identifying folks only if you're attending that space. Excellent. Hi, friends.
What's up?
Girl.
So nice to see you guys and share space with you together.
For sure.
I feel like I'm crashing the party because you guys are old colleagues.
Colleagues.
Yeah, well, we got to hang out last week though, and I'm still like recovering.
We did hang out. Leon and I were in Miami for Art Week. It was a great time. I'm just really excited that you guys could be here and you could share your insights in being funders and working in philanthropy. There was a question that we got from the pre-registration group, and the question is, quote, how do you persist? The never-ending part, the emotional labor part, the frustration, the being slighted part are all realities that some of us face in organizing and advocacy for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And in this belonging work in our professional environments. Personally, I feel replenished and like I can stay on course when participating in opportunities to connect with my peers, such as events like this offered by GIA. To persist, what has worked for you and what hasn't worked for you? Shaki, I'd love to start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me personally, there's no other option other than persist. You know, like most of my family still live in the exact same situations, circumstances, same neighborhood, same drama. So when I show up to work, I'm always reminded that I'm doing this for my community, for people who look like me, for my brothers, my sisters. So I have to persist. That's my thought that I take to it. I don't know if that's how you take that, but what hasn't worked, not having boundaries. That's like the biggest thing. Like when you get into this kind of work, you can't say yes to everything. You can't say yes to everybody. And similar to like what Michael said earlier, I'm really straightforward about what I can and can't do. I was talking to a young man the other day, real powerful young man, probably in his 20s, trying to reform juvenile laws and the way they handle, young people in the city. And he asked me outright, he was like, look, bro, I want the discretionary fund. And I was like, look, I don't got that for you. I was like, but I could give you somebody's email. So I think, the boundaries and just being transparent and being honest.
Leon, how do you persist? What keeps you going?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like family. It's like, the work, like it's easy to get caught up in the work. And like, when I go to like my grandma's house or my mom's house or to my dad's house, and like, I know like they love me for me, and like I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to be like this amazing person to them. I can just like sit on the couch and just chill. You know what I mean? So that really helps me out a lot. Meditation. I'm a certified guided meditation instructor. So I meditate, almost every day. I love reading. I love writing, and just finding my space outside of work. The other thing, like to Shaki's point, is like, I have this expectation that, just coming from the environment, we grew up in, that it's going to be hard, right? And like, I have to be resilient. I have to solve problems every day. And as a, person with a disability, oftentimes like people ask me like, like, is this hard or is this difficult? Or like, is this city accessible? And the reality is like, the world is not handicap accessible. You know what I mean? And that's not even an expectation. And so my brain is wired to solve problems, to make it, as, easy as it can be for me. And before my disability, I'm a Black man first, right? And so that's how I was raised, like from my father and my grandfather. Like they raised me that like, it's going to be difficult, and people are, are going to try to violate you and things like that. And so I have like this warrior spirit, that I balance out with my mindfulness and meditation, because like, again, going into, predominantly white spaces, like maybe like, 10 years ago, I didn't trust, white people, and I was like very aloof, and now I'm more open-minded and more collaborative in my approach. And so that has really helped. And then the other thing I left out is I go to therapy almost every week. And I'm a huge mental health advocate. And like, when I first started going to therapy, maybe like 6 years ago, It used to be like heavy, like my first few sessions were super heavy because I was just, dumping on my therapist. But now it's like, yo, like I'm like laughing in therapy and like just, working through ideas. And it's just like a really safe space for me to just talk and just be me, So I think that, those different practices really helped me out a lot.
I appreciate this. So much of what we gathered from the data that you shared were questions about models that exist that already do this work. And we have two leaders who are on the call with us right now who created their own models and are working through systems to develop their own things. One of you mentioned that you are considering the model of awarding BIPOC orgs 10 to 20% more than other grantees. There was a question about curious the ways you might be thinking of divesting from capitalism as well, and what that looks like through the lens of philanthropy in relation to mutual aid. We have a long history, Black people have a long history of Black co-working spaces, mutual aid networks centering those most harmed by racial capitalism, collective self-determination, shared decision-making, centering Indigenous and ecological knowledge, things like bailout funds. I'm going to drop in the chat 3 examples that are relevant today, including the Dreamkeeper Initiative. Asheville, North Carolina is doing reparations for Black members of the community. Creative Initiative, which is offering $42.2 million to distribute monthly payments to artists in the city. I think about the Black Panther Party, who was deeply embedded in mutual aid opportunities like fighting against police brutality. They also invested heavily in community organizing and aid, from their free breakfast program feeding thousands of hungry kids before school, to them setting up health clinics and child development centers and food pantries. I wonder, Leon and Shaiki, as you have been on your travels and been in dialogue with different people, different artists, I wonder what models you have seen that accomplished a lot of the challenges and shortcomings that we all face. I'm interested in knowing about specific examples and case studies. Shaiki, do you have anything you'd like to share?
I'm upset that I don't have like specific links to drop, but right now the Poise Foundation is in partnership with an organization out of Philly, and they have a funder circle. And I think this is one of my favorite funding models, like because this incorporates just a very high level of community input, community planning, community decision-making, and intentionality around like getting funds and then like using those funds to like address specific causes. So I'm very interested in like just community-driven models of like gathering and getting funds, because it's the level of partnership, camaraderie, cooperation it takes to do that. And then when those community like groups and entities and in those sharing circles then distribute and get the money out. So personally, I'm a huge fan of those, and I'm looking to try to learn more about it. And even in my own grant making practices here at the Poise Foundation, I'm looking to try to discover how I can make community a deeper part of my process and make it less about the final report in the sense of like, oh, I need all this data, I need all this specific information so you can prove your worth. But more so, I don't want people proving their worth. I want you connecting with the people in your community. So like, how can I got people I'm granting to, and like, let's say McKeesport, how can I get you to work with the other 4 people who are getting granted in this cycle to at least know each other, to at least have a conversation? Maybe like our final report is just we all go get coffee, and I'll using the whole trust-based philanthropy model, I'll take all the notes, I'll take all the details, and I'll record it all. But I really want you all to know one another. And then one more thing, from a GWP conference I was at, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember. There was someone who I'm just getting to know and learn about. Her name was Trista, and she was just talking about framing a lot. So like framing things around results, or framing things around solutions or what people need, as opposed to like always asking about the problems. So in philanthropy, we get very dedicated to problems. And that keeps us always one step behind of like addressing and moving the needle forward when maybe we should switch some of our framing, to how can we create solutions? In my notes, she said something like asking questions around what does success look like in 30 years if all the barriers were removed? Like, what would that look like for you? What would you be doing? How would you be operating? So yeah.
Leon.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, I thought about two models that I had, a personal experience with. And one was the Be Me model, right? Where they were, nominating people from community to get this grant, but it was more of a community. And so like, there was like this like circle of trust within the community where we were able to support one another. And like, I had like so many amazing mentors who helped guide me. So even though the funds were unrestricted, that fellowship and the love and the bonding that we were able to have really inspired me to do the work. The second thing is like the Heal America movement. So we have a few different ambassadors from different cities who have like real stories, right? So one of my partners, Anton, he actually founded the Bloods in Dallas in the 90s, right? And so he got this wild story, and now he runs an organization called Urban Specialists, and they're hiring the OGs from the community to go out and do the work. And so it was so amazing this summer to work on the funding aspect of the Heal America movement, where, I believe we probably put maybe 150,000 into Pittsburgh area, and then like altogether 2 million, in 7 different cities. But it was like relationship based, right? It wasn't like, what are the parameters? It was just like, this person's doing some dope work, like, you know what I mean? And let's fund them. You know what I mean? Let's give them 25,000. Let's give them 50,000. And then like we build a community around them, not to like, watch their work and like, but just to support them, right? And it's the same way. Like, I do like some angel investing, and I work with a venture capital firm, and like sometimes we'll come across companies that we really believe in, and they may not have all the resources. They may not have an accountant or an attorney. So we don't just say we don't want to invest in your company. We build a team around them, right, to ensure their success. And I think that is important, like funding people's ideas and then building teams around them to ensure their success, instead of saying like, oh, you don't meet these parameters, and we don't know if you'll be successful.
This is a remarkable point. I'm really grateful that you brought that up, Leon. It looks like we have about 4 minutes in this group right here, and I'd love to open the space up to anybody who's in the audience who maybe has a question for Shaki or Leon, or wants to discuss something that was uplifted earlier today. Just raise your hand, and I'm happy to call on you. Welcome. Please answer your question. Ask your question.
I wasn't gonna ask it, but I'll ask it anyway, or I'll just share. It was more of a comment. I just wanted to say, Leon, thank you for what you just said. Because in the case of, say, a fellowship or a grant or a donation, a lot of times it's easy to feel still kind of lost or solo or like disconnected. So the idea of building a circle of support after making the decision to fund, I think is huge, and it's very holistic. It's more connected, I think, to our traditions, our cultural historical traditions, than just kind of giving money and going on to the next. So thank you.
Thank you for that. The Black Donors Project. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you for this. I'm really feeling fulfilled and having energy that I didn't even know that I needed today. So I thank you all of that for all of it. I wanted to ask you, we're a project that believes in Black storytelling, and we collect data on Black donors who give to the arts, and we turn that data into visualizers to help the messaging of Black giving. And so we really want to key into Black joy. But one of the things that I find is that people are afraid of failure, and failure is a part of sourcing solutions in my mind. I just wanted to get your thoughts in terms of failure in this space, what that looks like and what that means for our community, however you define it.
Yeah, I think for me, when I think about failure, there are two versions. There's one that's like very healthy and it's a part of the process to get to a solution. And then there's a failure that's, I would never use the word a waste of time, but it's just not going to yield the same kind of results. I want to frame it that way. And the first one is any effort that is grounded in intentionality. I think there is no failure in that. You are intentional, you're checking things off, you're learning about the process. But I think sometimes when we do things and we don't have intention, we lose the ability to like pivot, make adjustments, and try to get to the next thing. So that's the kind of way I think about failure. And I think that's a really good question too, because I ask questions like that in like my grant applications about like, you know, the challenges and what is failure, what is success. But like I did say though, I'm trying to get away from the failure frame and get to the solution frame. But yeah.
Yeah, I would say I'm very asset minded, and the way I operate is very like community oriented, right? So I don't have the traditional philanthropic frame. Obviously, I have board members and my executive director who kind of balances me out and make sure that the foundation is operating in a good capacity. But when I think about failure, I think about like the stock market, right? It's like if you don't sell, you don't lose, right? And so if you don't give up, you're not failing, So you may have a situation where there might be, you might feel like you're taking a couple steps back, or you may have a lesson, but we're all learning as we go, right? So I don't see those learning lessons as failure.
Jackie and Leon, I'm so grateful for your wisdom and expertise today. Thank you so much for your sharing. Thank you for being present in the space and for showing up for Black people and in our communities and the work that you do. It's really an honor to be alongside of you all. And I hope that you can continue the conversations with our participants who are on our call today. Thank you.
That's good. And Leon, it's always good to see you, bro. We out here.
Likewise, I'll follow up with you. We'll connect for sure.
All right, for sure, bro.
All right, peace.
All right, thank you, everyone. The breakout room in the other space is going to close in about 50 seconds. Heather is going to be joining us to lead us through another body movement, engagement activity. If there are existing questions from the previous discussion, please drop them in the chat and we'll try our hardest to make sure that they get addressed in a timely fashion. After this 5-minute session, we're going to take a 30-minute break. And so thank you so much for sticking with us this far. Let's use this opportunity with Heather to move our bodies, process what we've learned, and then we'll take a break. Thanks, Heather. How are you? Welcome back.
Hey, thank you so much. That was a beautiful session. I got to kind of peek in on this other session, which was nice. So let's go ahead, and again, everything I'm offering here is just a suggestion. Please honor your own body. And for the sake of accessibility, we're doing a lot of chair movement today. However, if you need to stand up, go ahead and stand up. If you want to do some things so we started with the head, the neck, I want to keep moving down the body. And so let's go ahead and come back into our space wherever you are. If you are seated, go ahead and just take a moment to shift from side to side here. And I'm going to invite in a little bit of playfulness, celebrating Clara's movement at the beginning of today, where she just lifted up her arms. And so go ahead and lift up your arms and shake it out. Like whatever movement here feels good for you, I want you to find that, make it pleasurable, make it silly. If you want, you could stand up. If you want, you can just lift one foot, shake that foot, shake the other one, keep it fun. And then when you feel settled, come back into stillness, and we'll just go ahead and move down through the body to the torso here, into the spine. And so grounding into our space, sensing our body in space, feeling your feet firmly on the ground. And just notice if you're sitting up nice and tall, this is going to invite in more breath in the chest. We're going to inhale our arms all the way up. And then on your exhale, I want you to twist to the right. Let the left hand fall to the hip. Let the right arm fall behind you. Inhale nice and tall. Exhale. Turn the chin towards that right shoulder. And then breathe into this space just for a few moments. Noticing again, you have that deep breath that we spoke of in the beginning. Softening the eyes if that's available to you, even closing them. And then the next time you inhale, I want you to lift those arms and twist towards the front. Exhale, twist to the opposite side. So right hand comes to left leg, left arm comes behind you. We inhale, we shift the gaze towards that left shoulder. Exhale, soften a little bit in the hips here. Inhale, arms back up. Exhale, I want you to fold forward any amount here. So whatever feels good for you. When we say that, it just means you don't got to come all the way down, but where are you in space right now? Maybe you just come halfway, let the hands rest on the hips, or I'm sorry, on the thighs or down beside you. Softening those eyes again, noticing if the jaw is clenched, really hanging the head here heavy. Deep, full breaths, and then pressing the feet into the earth, slowly rising up. And so as we continue to move and integrate this information through our bodies, we want to lead with our hearts where possible. And so let's honor that by bringing the arms nice and wide, thumbs are pointed up. I'm going to move my computer back so you can see. So nice wide. And as you do, lift your chin. So you're really feeling that again in the thoracic spine, so the middle of your shoulder blades. And then as you exhale, I want you to cross one arm over the other, chin to chest, curl the spine. Give yourself a little hug. Inhale, open it up, chin rises. Exhale, cross opposite arm over. Give yourself that little hug. You guys we're doing hard work. We're doing powerful work. We need a little bit of self-nourishment. And then open it up, extending that heart to the community. Exhale, release the hands. Great, come back front and center. We're gonna give the hands a little bit of love here. So I'm bringing my computer a little closer. So extend the arms in front of you. Hands are facing each other, palms rather are facing each other. Bring the hands together, interlace the fingers, bend the elbows here. Real simple. And then let's begin to rotate the wrist in figure eights. So just allowing the wrist to get some love. We use them all day long on our phones, on our computers, caring for each other, caring for ourselves, and then change directions when you're ready. So that's kind of a little bit of mental yoga here. Sometimes this is hard. Great, release those hands. Bring the hands to the shoulder, the front of the shoulders. And then we're just going to make some circles here. So inhaling, arms or elbows come up and around. Let's do this a few times, grounding into that breath. We established that deep breath in the beginning. Maybe letting that exhale release anything that you maybe don't need to carry into the next part of our day. That inhale is bringing replenishment. And then switch directions. You can even get your torso into this. As we come into stillness, we'll do a little more torso and elbow movement. So we're going to do some swimming motion. So we're going to do strokes here, moving one elbow and then the other. And this is where you can really get your whole body involved, really moving and twisting the torso here, but not overdoing it. I'm a big fan of just doing enough. People, no performance here for yourself or others. And then reverse directions when you're ready. So lifting the chin maybe a little bit, nice and slow. And then go ahead and release, shake out the hands. Allow yourself to come back into stillness and just notice. Notice if you're clenching anywhere. Again, notice if the pelvis, the hips feel tight. Notice if you can allow the exhale to soften in that space. And before we close out, we'll just take a full breath in together through the nose. Exhaling, lion's breath, extending the tongue. One more time together, inhaling in through the nose and out through the mouth. All right, y'all, I forgot to set my timer, so I didn't want to go over, but I think we are at time.
That's perfect.
Thank you.
Always perfect, Heather.
Thank you, Jessica.
I appreciate you so much in leading us through that journey. We are right on time, Heather.
Awesome. Thank you.
I appreciate you holding space for us, giving us an opportunity to move and flex not only our minds, but our bodies in our session today. Heather, thank you so much for steering this. I'm really grateful for you. Thank you to everybody else for being here and holding it down with us in our space. At this point, we are going to take, I was saying to Sherilyn and Nadia on the behind the scenes text, it's not a 30-minute break. It's actually a 15-minute break. My body was just like, Jessica, sit down for a second. But we're going to take a 15-minute break. And this is a break for you to do whatever you want. Turn off your camera, use a lavatory, get another coffee, go to sleep. And we will be convening back in this space again for Heather to lead us through another Move Your Bodies program, exercise, engagement, activity, etc. at 3:40. So at 3:40 on the dot, I will see you all back here to Move Your Body with Heather Manning. Thank you so much for joining us thus far today. I hope you all have been enjoying it as much as I have. And I'll see you on the other end. Take care.
In my There's a thing in my practice that we call neutral spinal alignment. And it, again, is not something that you have to practice or even is available to you, but I'm going to guide you through what that might look like. And so in this offering, I'm going to suggest, again, that you root down in your feet, knees are above your ankles, come to the edge of your chair, wherever you're sitting, and then just notice where your shoulders are. This is where my shoulders like to live. So allow those shoulders to fall if they're living there. And then notice if your chin is parallel with the floor. Sometimes I'm all over the place, or, so just to try to get your chin just to be nice and long here. And then notice if you can find a little lift in your heart. Let's just imagine there's a little string in the middle of your chest and it just gently tugs upwards. So now maybe you have a little bit more availability for your breath. Okay. We're going to go ahead and just begin by taking a nice deep breath in. And as we do, we'll extend our arms all the way up. And then we'll exhale, we'll lower them down. We'll do that 2 more times, moving with your own breath. So I'm not going to keep saying inhale and exhale. I just want you to notice if you can let your breath guide you. And the next time you lower your arms, just go ahead and let them hang. We're going to extend our arms up again with the inhale. And then this time, as you exhale, you're going to fold forward and let your arms come back down to your sides and let them extend up behind you. And then inhale, come up, arms come up. We got that? So we exhale, we lower, arms come down, and then we let the arms rotate all the way up and behind us, pressing into the floor. We inhale back up. We'll do that 1 more time. Getting a little movement in our spine and our hips here. And then we Press into the floor, we come all the way back up. We let those arms raise, we stretch out through the fingertips, and then wiggle the fingers down like you're dispersing energy that no longer needs to be here. Great. Bring those arms back up. If you want to follow your breath, go ahead and inhale them up. And we'll do something called a sunflower. So as we exhale, we'll move the arms down together in a circle, like we're holding the world, or we're holding a sunflower, or we are the sunflower radiating that sun. So just moving. The hands are, the palms are facing each other. Gentle bend here, so you don't have to come all the way down, but allow the body to be heavy as you hang, come down and around. And then when you're ready, go ahead and change directions. Whoops, go the other way. Again, I'm not going to keep cueing the breath, but notice if you can let the breath be the guide here. By connecting with that breath, it allows us to drop our preoccupation with existing solely in our mind, come back into our heart spaces, back into our bodies. That doesn't resonate, that's fine, just ignore me. I'm just talking as we move. Come back up, arms are up. Exhale, wiggle those fingers down. Our final movement, I'm gonna focus on those hips again because they're so important to storing stress. Let me go ahead and tilt my camera forward. So what I'm gonna do here is bring my ankle up, crossing it over my left thigh. This may be not enough for a lot of us. So as you do that, I want you to bring your hand right above your knee. We don't want our hands on our knee joint. The other opposite hand can be on your ankle here. Get nice and tall. We'll get into that neutral spinal alignment, lifting from the heart. And then if this is enough, stay here, honor yourself. If you want to incorporate a little more, allow the heart to guide you forward. Nice long spine here. And then stop when you begin to feel it in your hip. You don't need to keep going. This is not an exercise in endurance. It's just an exercise in movement. Allow yourself to pause where you are. Stretching out that hip. Offering space to these tight areas. And then we'll slowly come back up. And these are all movements you can practice. These are my morning exercises. So these are great to do in the morning. Come back into stillness, allow your body just to notice what it feels like to have one hip stretch, the other not. And then when you're ready, go ahead and cross that opposite ankle over, flex those toes, allow the hands to rest where they need to rest without putting pressure on that knee joint. And then notice, is this enough for you? Can you be honest with yourself about what is enough and what is too much? Lift from the heart, and then slowly lower until you find it. See, this whole hip is different. I can't go very far, I'm right here. Right? And that our bodies are different each day. So day by day, we have different sensations, different experiences, and that's okay. Hold yourself without judgment in this moment. Deep breath in, maybe soften the eyes. Exhale, soften into the hips. Breathe into that space. A few more breath cycles. And when you're ready, honoring your own body, slowly lift yourself up. Release that leg. Come back into your neutral spinal alignment. Just get nice and tall. And before we leave each other, I'm going to invite you to take whatever movement, again, that you feel like you need right now. Maybe that's stillness. There's a lot of activity that happens in stillness. I'm going to be still for a little bit as we integrate what we just did and return to our space. Thank you all.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Jessica.
Impeccable work. And thank you for joining me in honoring Brianna today, our Pisces queen. How's everybody doing? Welcome back. Welcome. Oh, I closed my little camera. Here I am. Hi. Welcome back to our space. Hello, everyone. Beautiful faces. It's hard to look at somebody on the camera and see them smiling and not smile. So I'm looking at you guys smile and it's making me smile. Hello, welcome back. Thank you for being here. So we are on the second half of our day, post break, and we will be joined by Brianna Daniels, who's done so much work today, leading us in our rest space. Brianna will be centering joy, movement, and play with a live DJ set. So please join Brianna if you're interested in moving your body to some funky tunes. And in our workspace, we'll be hearing from artist and activist Miracle Jones, Brianna and Miracle, I'd love to invite you both into the space. Brianna, folks have had an opportunity to hear from you and a little bit about your work, and got to know you a little bit more through your conversation with Bahia Ramos from the Wallace Foundation. But I'd love for you to do, maybe folks who come late or haven't had a chance to get formally introduced to you, I'd love for you to take this as an opportunity to introduce yourself. So Brianna, I'd love to start with you and then move on to Miracle. Hello.
Hello again, I'm Brianna. I am a Charlotte native and an all of the kind of arts person. I make adornments. I forgot to mention that earlier. I work with crystals and copper for the body and home to help support people navigate where they are, where they're going, and where they're coming from. I am a samba dancer mostly right now, but I also love dancing to house music. I've been practicing DJing the past for some time now. And what else do? I'm a theater professional. I like to cook for people. I like to love on people. I like to smile a lot. I'm also a yoga instructor, Reiki practitioner. All of the things. There's not much I don't do, but I try to do it as sustainably as possible. Yes. And I'm happy to be here with y'all, and I hope that y'all enjoy my DJ set.
You're muted, Jessica.
We're muted.
Awesome.
Thank
Okay,
you,
great.
Brianna. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Sherilyn, our team. Miracle, welcome to our space.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about who you are and the type of work that you do.
Yes, my name is Miracle Jones. I am an organizer living right here predominantly in Pittsburgh. My art is, I do a lot of wheat pasting art. I do a lot of digital art centering Black people and mental health and joy. I also do a lot of public speaking to talk about gender-based issues and moving away from violence to places of safety, love, and support. And that's some of the work that I do. I do apologize. We're at a construction, so you may hear like a fan going, but hopefully I'm talking loud enough so everyone can hear me. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Miracle. Thank you, Brianna. And so as folks know, we are a duplex, and on one side of the house, the programming is completely open, inclusive, and accessible to all. So I hope that you'll stick around and join us in that space to hear from Miracle Jones. However, if you identify as Black and you would like to be in the rest space, I hope that you'll join Brianna Daniels as she leads us through, I'm trying to think of a cute word. Let's call it a disco, as she leads us through her disco. So I'll take a moment and I'll allow you all to shift in your space, and I'll see folks on the other side. Thanks for coming back, everybody. Just for the sake of accessibility, if you're a Black identifying person, you're more than welcome to join the rest space. You can select the More button and then select breakout rooms. And then after clicking breakout rooms, you scroll down and click rest space Black identifying folks only if you are interested in attending that space. Thank you. Hey, Miracle. How are you doing today?
Good. We're doing double duty, so that's why I'm in my work shirt. I do apologize. I'm not here representing my work. I'm right here representing myself, but doing triple duty today, so that is why I'm in uniform. But do I need to wait like 30 seconds?
Well, maybe because not everybody's from Pittsburgh, you can talk a little bit about your work so folks have some context about that too. And then I'm just going to let you
start. So yeah, my name is Miracle Jones. I work for a social justice nonprofit based here in Pittsburgh. But for the purposes of this conversation, I am someone who has had the experience in writing grants, submitting grants, getting grants published. You actually, for this, was doing research. And since coming to Pittsburgh in 2015, I've actually helped write grants for upwards of over $1 million for Pittsburgh-based organizations since 2015. And so I am new to presenting to funders and decision makers about some of the things they can change. But this presentation that I'm talking to stems from some of the conversations I've been able to have with artists and even in Jessica. So I do have a small PowerPoint put together for everyone. And again, it's just like I said, it's a small PowerPoint just to help guide conversations about like the publication of grants and awards, and it's something that I have wanted to talk to. So for a lot of us, there is a practice in posting award letters, whether it's on social media, whether it's through email blast to our supporters, for a variety of reasons, particularly when it comes to investment in Black arts. It has been to signal a change for a lot of providers that they are investing in Black and Brown and queer organizations, but it has also been to correct previous disinvestment. And so in some areas, people are publicizing it because it has been their past practices. And in some areas, people are more intentional about publication because they're trying to correct previous disinvestment, and which of course is great. However, there are sometimes issues that arise when you publicize award letters. A lot of times when there is differing amounts between organizations, that creates conflict. Sometimes when there is not enough resources and communities are left out, that creates conflict and response. And a lot of times gifts are not general operating support. So it means that even though this announcement of award is being publicized, people may not be in the outside of the recipient, may not be able to be assisted or get any type of support because of this award. And even more importantly, sometimes for individuals, this creates an issue of safety. If there is a bulletin blast put out and saying, hey, artist Miracle Jones receives the $100,000 stipend for an award, that could put that artist's life in jeopardy, because you're now publicizing that they have money, where they are, what the award goes for. And that sometimes creates an issue where people now go to that artist and ask them for loans or support, or even targets them for violence. Think a little bit of, the lottery curse when we talk about awarding issues. Announcing funds. But on the flip side, there is a need for publication, right? A lot of Black orgs are not receiving adequate funding. I know there was different stats. Some stats said less than 10% of nonprofit foundation dollars went to Black and Brown organizations. There is also a need to correct that disinvestment, and publicizing awards is one way to do that. There is also a conversation about investing in businesses and organizations to interrupt systems of white supremacy. And one way to do that is through financial support. Another thing is people and nonprofits need financial and social capital. A lot of funders will follow under other funders. And so by publicizing award, you not only are able to find different people to invest in, you're also able to find different artists who can create communities, who can build together. And a lot of artists and organizations rely on this publication to not only find each other, but to survive, to put into their end of year reports, to report back to their funders and other donors about how they're diversifying their funds, how they're building their brand, how they're going out and researching. So there is a need to publicize different awards, different engagements, not only for the funder themselves, but for the organizations and the artists. And so when we're looking at having to engage and support, one of the things we need to talk about is the intentions behind the dollars that we are giving, the dollars that we are going out and recruiting, because again, it has created conflict and issues, but it's also a cost benefits analysis that goes towards these things. And so some of the things that I believe that we could do to switch this is, one, ask the grant awardees and recipients how they would like the award to be described. For instance, there are news articles that will say, hey, this nonprofit received this unrestricted grant of upwards of $8 million, and they're able to do with that grant how they so choose. And that is something that the nonprofit itself put out. There are other times when artists get fellowships, and the artists themselves is the ones that will announce the fellowship, not the organization. And so when you're talking about being intentional and investing in art, especially a community that has traditionally been disinvested, having that conversation about what works best to describe that award is something that is very, very necessary and needed. And some, from my experience, doesn't always happen. Another thing to think about is maybe leave out the actual number or the amount, and say instead that this organization or this individual has been invested in. If we're talking about building that social capital, creating signals that the organization is changing and is funding more community-based projects or more culturally competent-based projects, this is another way so that you're able not only to amplify the artists, but also the investments. Another thing is to explain that the awards are restricted. Recently, there have been a lot of people, even here locally in the city of Pittsburgh, that had announced a bunch of awards. Some of the awards were restricted to purchase and investment. Another award was basically to hire personnel that had already been identified. Some was to provide like mental health support, things that were already restricted, but unless you read the grant or were familiar with the organization, you would have had no idea. And this is something that is very, very necessary, particularly for grants that are reimbursement based. It's very important that people understand in the community how these grants are being awarded, because it's great to have investment, but when you have thousands of people believing that you're able to create a project that you cannot, that again creates that conflict. Another practice you can thinking about adopting is having grantees share the information, or only share the information with your board. And this is again because sometimes there are unintended consequences when you're publicizing awards, and we know that there is always, there's always going to be people who are left out, and it just is something that you can take on as past practices to engage and to move forward. And I do see that there is some things going on in the chat, so I'm going to stop the share and to just look at the chat for a second.
It's just me, Miracle, boosting you, hyping you up.
A couple of the people, but yes, but this is something that has been very necessary, because in the past, and I can speak for own personal experience, there was a letter that went out and it said that, hey, we have given your employer all of this money. And the next day we had so many people like hitting us up like, can you hire us? Can you hire us? Can you give us this? And we had to tell like all these people no, right? And so when we're talking about looking at the violence that has been inflicted, particularly in Black communities, because of the lack of disinvestment or of the will of the funders who haven't really engaged community members, it's so very important that we're having those conversations. And somebody put in the chat, a lot of what we're hearing is to have conversations with the people that we're funding. And unfortunately, it's because a lot of times in academia, we are essentially taught that we know what's best because of our experience and because of our education, that we know what's best for communities. And a lot of times, because we're not taking that extra step to sit back to actually get to know the communities that we're funding or the communities that we're getting involved in, we are creating conflicts, we are creating more issues instead of being able to address the concerns in a culturally competent manner. And I understand that it's great to give, it's great to help people, it's great to invest in people, and it's great that other people know that you and your organization are where they can go to be invested in. And so there is a cost benefit analysis that comes to publicizing your awards, especially if you are someone who has to do reporting, if you've made a public promise. So we know during 2020, a lot of funders made public promises about what they were going to do with funds and how they were going to invest in people. So with that understanding that some people have to invest and have to publicly say where they put their dollars, these are some of the best practices that I found could work. You know, a simple conversations about money. We know a lot of times people say money and politics are things that you should never talk about. And so there is a barrier when it comes to this. And again, for people of the non-global majority, maybe boasting about how much money you've put in an area is not an issue. But for these communities that have not had that investment, especially for artists who are coming from low income backgrounds, and this is sometimes the first time they're being invested in, having your financial business put out there can also create a barrier to your art and issues around safety and community. And so I hope that going forward, a lot of funders actually talk to the artists and the organizations that they're working with so that these issues will not happen. And I believe I am at time, so I'm going to turn it back over to Jessica.
Wow, Miracle, that was phenomenal. Thank you so much for putting that together and sharing that insight with us. I'm really grateful for your time and your energy, and for being here in this space. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm grateful for you because you're like amazing in perfection. And thank you for putting this all together.
That's you, my friend. That's you. I do have an existing question. We're over time, but I'm going to drop it in. I'm going to say it, and then maybe you can respond in the chat because I think folks might be interested. You just made an argument for not publicly announcing grant awards, but there are a number of other things, strategies that maybe funders and foundations could use, using that tool that you said of listening, right? Actively listening to what their community needs and then waiting to make action. I think about an argument for making applications more plain spoken, right? And one of the things that we got from our pre-registration questions is, quote, please present alternative criteria language for grant applications. With consideration for the Eurocentric Western standards of evaluation, it's challenging to develop applications welcoming to artists without formal or traditional training. And then another comment was, quote, what current terms or vocabulary should we use to indicate our organization is Black-led? So other than stating it directly like that, what language or key terms identify funders interested in this area? And conversely, identifies our organization with those funders. So that's a lot. But really,
I would say your pictures, putting pictures on social media allows you people to know that you're Black-led. Your work in the community. And for the applications, the B is very simple. What do you want to do with this work? How can this work change? How can this fund change your work? Applications can be 3 or 4 questions. You know, what communities are impacted? What do you want to do with this work? And have it a go. Thinking more of using your application to remove barriers and not to do gatekeeping, I think is the difference.
Thank you so much, Miracle. I'm so grateful for you. Law school sister, friend, colleague, bestie, you are the best. Thank you for being such a valuable resource in our community. I'm really grateful for you.
Grateful for you, and thank you all, and thank you Grantmakers and the arts for this wonderful opportunity.
Thanks, Miracle. All right, friends, welcome back. It's always a little jolting when it's my face that pops back up on the screen. I just want to uplift everyone who's had a chance to speak thus far and share about their insight and their experience. This is incredibly vulnerable work, and I just want to make space to acknowledge that y'all are doing the work, and I'm really grateful for y'all to be here today. Heather, I know you're queued up. I would ask if it's okay if we, is that okay? Okay, great. Yep.
Yes.
Look, we can communicate without words. Isn't that special? Thanks for being here, Heather.
Thank you.
I'm really grateful as we enter our last discussion of the day. This is discussion number 4, and we'll be joined by, in the rest space, Black Dream Escape. Annika and Wynn will be here to lead us through a journey of imagining, of dreaming, of visioning, of building. I wonder about, quote, the usefulness of not being useful, quote, how to do nothing. And then in the workspace, we'll be joined by Angela Thorpe and special guests, Becca Zayla Mguni, in the workspace to talk about, again, imagining, dreaming, visioning, and building. I get so excited thinking about Becca Zayla. We have a wonderful group of speakers for our final session. And I'd like to just begin with an intro. Annika and Wynn, welcome. It's so nice to see you. Thank you for being here.
Hey, Jessica.
Look at your beautiful faces.
Look at your beautiful face.
I love you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, kid, you know, we're friends and we know each other, but maybe we can use this time to introduce folks to who you are and the type of work that you do and what you'll be doing with us this afternoon.
Cool. When do you want to go first? Sure, yeah. So my name is Wynn. My artist name is Wynn Defire. I am a storyteller in many different forms, in the form of music, in the form of meditations, and I and Annika both have a business, kind of a healing business called Black Dream Escape. And I guess we'll speak more about that after Annika introduces herself, I guess. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Wynn is right. We work together. We co-own Black Dream Escape, therapeutic arts practice we'll talk about later. Today, we're going to be reading excerpts from inspirational books that prompt us to rest and how we've developed our own rest practices and values over time. Myself, I am a gardener. I'm also a therapist. I like to play around with music. Great hobby of mine. I love my dogs. What else? I have some guests with me today. I'm a very intentional, ritualistic person. So to create our space, I brought some of my little comforting friends. I have this duck from Minnesota that I got from a dear friend. So if I bring this duck, I have my friend with me. This mushroom from New Orleans, another friend gift. And I have a ukulele that we use in our rest sessions, Selena. I bring her whenever Winston and I have a rest session. Sometimes I play. Today is not the time. She's gonna rest while we talk about rest.
I don't have any friends with me. I mean, that you can see.
Yeah.
They're all around us.
Right.
Can't see them.
Yeah, but they're here.
One of those behind us, my piano, Claudia. She also joins us for the rest sessions.
Yeah. So the gang's all here. Thank you so much for also being here, folks. One thing we also like to do before we do anything is make sure everyone's moisturized and just set for sitting for a little bit. I have water, you know, we both have some water. If you have lotion around or something, I would grab that. And also just have your water available. Like I said, today we're going to be reading excerpts. So I have How to Do Nothing. Now I'm going to pose some questions to you. And Wynn has his book.
And I have Crazy Brave, which is a great book. You all should read it after.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I take Wynn's word for it. I'm excited to hear that. Maybe we should talk about Black Dreamscape before we start. Does that make
Definitely.
sense?
Yeah.
Well, before I let you launch, I just also want to introduce who's going to be in the other space, and then we'll let folks go and determine what rooms they want to be in.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yes, Angela, welcome to the chat. Hey, Angela, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I feel so excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. Can you tell folks a little bit about who you are and how you got to this work and what you're interested in talking about today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a culture keeper. I am a steward of Black stories. Professionally, I identify as what we call a public historian. I am also the descendant of enslaved people from Edgecombe County, North Carolina. And my work takes a lot of different shapes. I work to think about the possibilities of historic Black spaces to shape and reshape Black communities. I like to be thoughtful about how to share history, art, and culture from North Carolina in really creative ways and experiences through like trail programs and exhibits and really innovative websites. And for the purposes of today's conversation, I work diligently to break apart public humanities practices to be responsive to the needs of Black communities and heritage practitioners and makers in a way that is not extractive. And some of what we're going to be talking about today with Becca Zala, I'm going to pose some questions to us that are going to help us think about how can we move forward in our work in a way that is abundant and full of possibilities and not extractive. So I look really forward to talking to you today.
Thank you so much, Angela. Yes, North Carolina love up in this space. I'm so grateful you're here. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce Becca Zala Mguni. Becca Zala, I would be remiss if I didn't say that Jeffrey Hayes, who was previously scheduled as a part of our program, he fell ill today and isn't able to join us. And in the spirit of our dialogue, I encourage Jeffrey to use this as an opportunity to rest. And in the interim, I thought hard, who could fill this gap in time? And none other than superhero Becca Zala had space and made space and always makes space for us and always makes space for Black people and Black artists. And here she is again to save the day for us. So Becca Zala, thank you for being our special guest. Thank you for joining us and being here and sharing so much of yourself already with our audience today. Thank you. Tell us a bit about who you are.
Thank you, Jessica. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you a lot. I appreciate Annika and Wynn and Angela, and I appreciate just everyone who's been a part of this day and everyone who's on this this Zoom call. It's been really great listening and being a part of it today. And yeah, if I'm anything, it's because of the people who pour into me, love me, support me, my ancestors, and just the grace of the Creator. So I'm just grateful to be here and for you to, see me and to offer me space and invite me. So thank you. And I am an artist and a librarian and a cultural worker and someone who's learning every day. I am healing and I am dreaming as well. And my work is in the multitude, really the work of living and the work of trying to be intentional in this iteration of life. And I have the opportunity to do work through a project called the Black Unicorn Library and Archives Project, where we really try to think about how do we cultivate libraries as sites of learning, possibility, and freedom. So it's really exciting to hear you talk, Angela, about your work as well, and really celebrate the contributions of Black women, queer, trans, non-binary people, and Black people across the diaspora. So, I'm really interested in imagining, dreaming, and building new ways of being in this world, and remembering as well from, the technologies of our ancestors, all the ways of care, love, and just making it happen. So.
Thank you, Becca Saylor. Thank you, everybody, for being here and introducing yourselves. I've been saying recently that my authenticity is my activism, and y'all are all showing up as yourselves, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for being who you are in our shared space today. And for our audience, now you have a choice. It's a hard one. This last one is a tricky one. Behind door number 1. No, I'm just kidding. Remember, we are a duplex. There are 2 sides of the house. On one side of the house, it is completely open and accessible. All are welcome to join Angela, Becca Zala, and I as we have a discussion about dreaming and vision casting. If you are Black and identify as a Black person, you are able to join Wynn and Annika as the Black Dream Escape in their special space. So I will create an opportunity of pause for you to choose what space you will be going through. And I will remind you that if you are wanting to join the Black identifying space, you can select the More button, select breakout rooms. And after clicking breakout rooms, scroll down and click rest space Black identifying folks if you're interested in attending that space. And I'll give you a moment to shift. Annika and Wynn, you might have to do that so you shift into the new space.
Okay.
Thanks, guys, for being here. Hi, friends.
Hello.
Welcome to our final session of today. Thank you for really sticking around and holding it down. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, the main room is being recorded. Yes, okay. So I'm sorry, just all the admin, all the admin things. How are you feeling today, Becca Zala? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm laughing on the inside. I don't know. It's like things you just have to chuckle at yourself sometimes. Yeah, I feel good. I feel grateful. Yeah.
You look great. You look glowing.
Thank you. So do you all. Yeah.
How are you, Angela? How are you finding yourself in the world today?
You know what? I feel electric today. As such, I'm grateful to be in this space to just cool down a little bit, to just tap into my thoughts and my spirit and have some rich conversation.
I appreciate that. Thanks for being here, showing up, being open to the dialogue. I'd like to start by let's talk about some Black women who we admire. Angela, I know you talked already about Polly Murray. As a North Carolinian, we love our Nina, we love our Nina Simone, we love our Maya Angelou. Who are you inspired by today?
Today, I'm inspired by a couple of people. One of those people is the illustrious Polly Murray. Again, that queer thinker, thought leader, scholar, legal scholar, lawyer, women's rights activist, human rights activist, civil rights activist, faith leader. I could go on and on and on. And I think what is sort of resonating with me lately about Polly is that, one, this person who contributed so much to the world was rooted here in the South, right? And specifically in North Carolina. It's that Southern lens that shaped so much of how they saw the world and so much of the work that they went on to do. I think the second thing that's really been resonating with me about Pauli Murray is this concept of like, what does it mean to dedicate your life to the work, to divorce yourself from ego and to connect deeply to a personal mission and a personal set of values, and to let that mission and those values guide you sort of in spite of what recognition you may or may not receive. And then the third thing that's been inspiring me about Pauli is how Pauli was so many things, right? They led an abundant life. And I named so many things, right? Like to start out your career as a lawyer and to end your career as a faith leader. Pauli reminds me that you can be as many things in this world as you want to be. And so that is somebody that I'm inspired by. And some of the reasons why, a long answer to your question, but I'm really appreciative of you drawing it out from me.
It was a perfect response. Thank you for that. Akazela, who are you looking at? Who are you inspired by? Can you uplift some ancestors' names into our shared space? Some folks who are living as well, models that you appreciate. Tell me what you're looking at.
Well, I'm listening right now to You Don't Know Us Negroes by Zora Neale Hurston. And it's really, really awesome. It's like a collection of different essays. And as I'm listening to it, I'm like, Zora Neale Hurston is just, she's nothing to play with, you know? She's funny. She's pretty sassy. You know, she's like really direct. She's calling things out very, very plainly, very clearly. She loves Black people, like really, really deeply. I have a copy of it here as well. So this is really, really present with me right now. And I think, yeah, Zora Neale Hurston right now is really present in my ears, in my heart. And I feel like she was someone who, I think they talked about her being like an intrepid observer, and things that I'm learning. I was like, I didn't know she was a beat reporter for the Pittsburgh Courier. And I am grateful for Zora, but I'm also then grateful for Alice Walker, because we wouldn't have what we have of Zora Neale Hurston if it wasn't for Alice Walker, right? And we wouldn't have so many of the Black women writers that we have if it wasn't for the courage that Black women who dared to write had. It was just really incredible for them to feel something within themselves that they felt a necessary urge to share. Because now we have these relationships across space and time with ancestors and with loved ones who continue to guide us, who continue to offer us, information towards a liberatory path. It's always, every time I think, wow, if we want to learn how to get free, we look at the lives and the writings of Black women and Black, queer, and trans people, and it's right there. And I think for me, there's a lot of Black women in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of Black folks here living in Pittsburgh, who don't get recognized as much. Some people do get recognized, some people don't get recognized, but daily, day in and day out, those are the people that I look to, who I'm inspired by, who I'm encouraged by, who I'm held by. Some people, I feel really lucky. I feel despite whatever challenges I may experience, I have a very blessed life, that there are a multitude of people around me who are just dynamic beings. So I can start to tell you all of my friends and just a lot of people, Black and brown folks, who I just I'm like, yeah, you make the richness of my life.
I appreciate that. And Becca Zela, I also need for you to know that you are that for many people in our community. You are the light. And so it's always mirrored, it's coming back to you. And I just want to make sure to hold space so you can feel it coming back to you as well. It's important for me to say. I'm interested in thinking about, in how much of what we've spoken about today, how we can affect change. So a lot of our discussion has been about large scale organizations or institutions that are generally white-led, being in the same space, and having to share a same pie with smaller organizations that are often emergent or newer and often Black-led. And this scarcity model that is often seen across the field, that if we gain, that means there's a debt somewhere else. And so I'd like for you all to just talk a little bit about scale versus impact. And there was a question that was raised in the chat a little bit ago. The question was, what do you think about measuring impact on a large scale institutional level versus smaller scale daily practice level? And I think about the tools that we have as individuals, you know, what little we have and how much we can do with what we have. And so, yeah, I'd just love to hear your thoughts about scale and impact. Angela, you have some ideas?
I do. So something that I've been studying deeply over the last year or so is the work of Adrienne Maree Brown, and particularly emergent strategy. Sort of out of that work, I find myself really struck by the concept or like theory that Adrienne puts forth around fractals. And part of that argument is that it's really, really critical to kind of get the small thing tight so that you can scale up to make the big thing tight and effective. And so I say all that to say that I think we should actually be investing in those smaller scale practices, strengthening those small practices, strengthening those emergent models, strengthening, again, what is new in order to build systems and sort of possibilities that are stronger, right? Like your small is ultimately going to reflect the bigger system. And so just leaning into and investing those small interactions, those small practices, I think is critical for the future of how some of our institutions can move forward.
Thank you. Becca Zela, what do you think?
Yeah, what she said makes me think of what Audre Lorde says. She talks about we have to be tender with each other in order to be dangerous together. And the fractals and thinking about how can we strengthen our one-to-one relationships so that as we become like tight with each other, then we can build onto those, you know, build onto that network, you know, become strong as the mycelium, you know, and help each other from one part of the forest to the next. But I feel like what I've learned is, you know, the strength of any organization is only as, you know, is only as strong, is only as big, is only as what it is if the relationships are, there's capacity for those intimate relationships to hold goodness as well as challenge, you know. So if there's a challenge there in an intimate space, in the one-to-one relationship, how strong is that relationship? Has the work been done there so that the rest of the thing doesn't start to wobble and shake and fall apart? So I agree with you. You know, I believe strongly that all of what we're doing is about how can we be in relationship with each other?
Yeah.
How can we be in relationship with each other How can we be in relationship with each other in ways that help us to survive, help us to grow, help us to love, help us to thrive, help us to be ourselves. And then we have to write and say, oh, I need this resource in order to be in relationship with young people in my community and to provide the things that we need. You know, it's really like, how do we fund care work is what I've been thinking about, you know, because it's really about the relationships that help us to continue to exist and thrive on this planet. And I do think that having at least one strong relationship keeps a lot of us here. And then, of course, like you said, too, then it allows us to think about, maybe I can have another strong relationship or attempt another relationship, and then another, and then another, and then I have a network. And then, like you said, it can grow something. So I really appreciate that example for sure.
Absolutely. And I'd love to offer to, you know, Adrian talks about critical connections versus critical mass, right? Like measuring sort of success by the strength of your relationships versus the bigness of your thing, right? The bigness of your institution or your project is so very important. And so I appreciate what you're raising up around the value of relationships, being in deep relationship with one another. Because again, I think it's that investment that is critical to how our institutions and our work can move forward in a way that's rich and abundant.
The end of our session, always, the ends of sessions always feel like there's so much more to say. And it feels like right when there's a momentum, it is almost, you can see the horizon, you know. There's so much to talk about and to think about when we think about imagining the futures that we'd like to see for ourselves and how we can implement them. And Angela and Becca-Zela, you are two people that do that work. You come up with an idea that is a solution and then you do it. And it's really remarkable to watch you both work. Thank you so much for sharing space with us today. I'm really grateful for your time and your generosity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you
so much, Becca-Zela. Thank you, Angela. You guys are wonderful. It was a great offering. I agree in the chat. It says these offerings are beautiful. I agree, Alana. Thank you. Okay, so it is 4:44. 4:35. What those numbers say. And we just wrapped up our fourth and final discussion. At this point, I'd love to invite Clara Kent back to the main stage. You know, part of our work as being arts workers and administrators in the arts, this is actually not a break. Okay, this is a break. Okay, I see. A part of our work as being administrators, arts workers, curators, folks who work in advocacy and across philanthropy is as we talk about art, as we talk around artists, how can we continue to bring more artists into our spaces? How can we continue to center the arts as we talk about it? And so it's been important for me to integrate arts into our summit today. And Clara launched us in the beginning at 1 o'clock. Doesn't it feel like a week ago? She launched us earlier today with a series of beautiful melodies. And I'd like to invite Clara to join us again to close. I feel there was a hesitance in saying close because this work isn't over, you know, because we will continue, because there's so much more to do. We are just in fact getting started. But for the sake of our summit today, Clara, thank you so much for launching us. And I'd love if you could use this time to hold us at the end, to give us that same warm embrace that you gave us in the beginning. Thanks.
I feel good. Oh, this is so weird seeing both perspectives of me. I feel really good. I hope everybody else feels really good and feels confirmed, affirmed. Because being an artist that also is an entrepreneur that has so many identifiers, like I'm African American, I'm Native American, I'm a woman, I'm all these things that tend to be, I think we all relate. It could be very difficult to navigate through the world with a lot of things that are beautiful to be, but people will make you think otherwise. So spaces like this are so important, so important. So I'm so grateful for today. So I'm going to continue closing it off with some good vibes. I just had a head cold, so forgive me for, sounding a little nasally today. But I want to share a song I just made recently. It's called Letting Go. And I wrote this specifically thinking about Black women, Indigenous women, and just people that tend to feel it's just time to be free. It's time for me to let go of all of these things that I've chained to myself thinking that I'm obligated to them. So hopefully you enjoy it. Let me know if you can hear it.
Blast from the past, when you're looking back. Spent some time alone, now you want me back. I ain't even mad, cause I'm through with that. Dressing all my wounds, getting to the back. I ain't really thinking about the past. Acknowledge it all, the good and the bad. Facing all my fears, removing the mask. Releasing these tears, cause I know I gotta let it go. Oh, the art of letting go. If you could be controlled, what control away. The more I cling, I feel so lost. When I release, I feel secure. It's letting go. It's the only mistake. Lately, been feeling so new. Light is seeping through the cracks of my heart. It's crazy. When I look back, I never thought I'd make it this far. What saved me was facing the truth, and that's easier said than done. Releasing these fears for love this time. Oh, I know I wanna let it go. Oh, the art of letting go. If you could be controlled, or control away. One heart cling, I feel so lost. When I release, I feel secure. Let it go. It's only mistake.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Woo!
That's gonna be on the mixtape. That was a rough. I recorded that at home on this, and yeah, it's really rough. So thank you. I was like, that's one of my newer songs. That's going to be available on the mixtape 4 Winds. It's a 4-part series based on the medicine wheel because my culture is Oglala Lakota. That's one part of my culture. And yeah, go get the pre-order. This next song, I really want everybody to dance and have a good time. We're going to end this on the highest of beautiful notes because it's been a beautiful time. And this is by my mentee, Moni Bahia. Her album just came out and it's called Inferno. And this song is called Fisher, and it's so good.
This impossible. I keep on bleeding, you my obstacle. I keep on feeling I'm illogical. I keep on screaming till it's audible.
And that's it. Thanks, y'all. That was great. And before we go, because I did this earlier and I want to finish it off with this. If you were here the whole time, you already know. So when I say all love, you say no hate. We're going to build the love up even bigger. I don't know how, but hey, anything's possible. You ready? All love.
No hate.
No
hate.
No
hate.
That's what I'm talking about. Thank you so much. For more information, I put the links in the bio. I think did Jess do it too? Oh yeah. Thanks, y'all.
We're a team. I can't take credit. It was definitely Sherilyn or Nadia, who I would be remiss to say thank you. Thank you to the entire Grantmakers in the Arts team for making this possible for all of us. We've been planning this summit since August. And so for it to come, for it to be in fruition today feels just, I'm a little overwhelmed. I feel like, what am I going to do with myself now? Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Grantmakers in the Arts, for making space for us. Thanks for all y'all that rode with us all day. It's been a journey and I learned so many things. I cannot wait to see Toya's visual note-taking that will be produced after our session today. Again, as a way to integrate arts into our discussions about the arts. So that's got me really excited. I can't wait for y'all to have access to this unheard underground Claricant tracks. So you guys can download those pre-orders. That sounds so exciting. I can't wait for y'all to sign up for gardening workshops with Heather Manning. It's gonna be so great seeing what you guys can grow and build together beyond our event today. I can't wait for y'all to see Becca Zala advocating for us every day in every discipline across all fields. Annika and Wynn, your work is incredible and inspiring. And I hope that some folks could learn from you all as a model today and think about how they can use the tools and the resources that they have to support and really hold their communities. Brianna, baby B, you are such a great champion and leader. And I'm so grateful that you could have the space to hold down the rest space today and hold down that community while I couldn't be in more than one space at a time. I'm missing so many people. This is like I'm getting married. Miracle, or I'm accepting a Grammy. Miracle, thank you so much for your perspective. Leon, Shakwi, it was lovely to hear from you. Angela, I'm always so grateful to share space with you and to have an opportunity to hear and learn from your brilliance. So thank you for sharing some real strategies with our team today. I just, wow, it's like, yes, I feel like I just did a rap battle and I'm thanking everybody. Let's see, Brianna Connor, just the way that you move your body as your tool is inspiring. And I hope that folks could learn from that in our session today. Okay. Camille and Malcolm, wow. My phone was blowing up immediately after your session, and I feel so sad that I couldn't be there to hear it, but I know that it was so beneficial for the folks who are in this space today. So thank you for doing that. And Michael and Janelle, thinking about how we can with what we have. You are both real living examples of that. And if these large funders and large foundations can learn anything today, I hope that they could learn that we have what we need. We already have it. We are not operating from a scarcity model. We are operating from a space of abundance. And if there are opportunities for us to hold each other, to support each other, to uplift each other, they don't have to be hard. They can be easy. You all answered in your pre-registration questions. The question was, what are you doing today to support a Black artist? And you answered that when you registered. And so I want to uplift that question at 4:50 on the end of our summit today. When we hang up this call, when everybody logs off their Zooms and drinks some more water, or uses the potty, or does whatever they need to do next, I would really encourage you to think specifically before the end of today. What are you doing to support a Black artist? What will you do today before midnight to support a Black artist? That's where I'd like to leave you. I'm so grateful for everyone and everything today. What a space of gratitude. Cheers to the first one. Sherilyn, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Jessica. Super cheers for the first one, absolutely. I echo everything that you just said, Jessica. All of our presenters, you were awesome. It was fun to like bounce in between our Black only space and our full space. Everything was amazing. I'm so full. So thank you all for your energy. Special shout out, thank you to Jessica Gaynell Moss. Round of applause. She was our lead planner for this, and just I am absolutely just so thrilled that this went so incredibly well. Like, what else would I expect? Knowing that Jessica is at the helm. So thank you so much. This was amazing. Also, special shout out to Nedzia Lokta and Jamie Sharp from the Grantmakers in the Arts team, who made this happen so successfully, and everyone on the GIA team who supported the work, because we couldn't have done it without all of the players. And thanks to all of the folks who registered and attended, just kind of like building the energy, the momentum, being here to share and engage, ask questions. We're in this together, and so really looking forward to keeping the conversations going. In your chat, Nedzia, she's been doing our tech. She's so great. We'll drop in a link for you to take a survey, because we want to know how you felt. We can see all the accolades in the chat, but we want to know on the survey how you felt. So let us know via the survey. And we will be sending out a recording of this session, and a lot of the materials that were in the chat from our presenters, from Clara. So all of that is coming. And let's see, I want to make sure I have everything. I think that's it. Other than that, I hope that you have the best day ever. Thank you all for coming. On behalf of GIA, thank you.